Welcome to Refused Flank, a wargaming podcast exploring the intersection of competitive excellence and narrative storytelling potential.
Welcome to Refused Flank, the wargaming podcast where we talk about the convergence of narrative and competitive play. And this week we're going to be talking more about our most played game, Warhammer Fantasy Battles 6th edition. I guess I should have introduced myself first. Now that I think about it, I'm Grant.
And I'm Cam.
And as I was just saying, we're talking about Warhammer Fantasy Battles 6th edition. We're going to do another army book review. This one was requested by one of our listeners at one point, the Orcs and Goblins. This is a army that neither of us have played, so big asterisk with the review. However, I think we've played enough of Warhammer Fantasy Battle that we can give fairly good insight, I would think. Maybe we're not experts, but I think we could lay out some general advice
at the very least, educated guesses.
Yeah, and I think, frankly, this is the type of stuff I love listening to, so hopefully you guys do too.
And if you don't, well, then there's lots to comment about, so make sure you get those comments in.
Yeah, you just tell us everything we did wrong.
Yeah. This is going to be part of another sort of little module, for lack of a better term, where we will review the Orcs and Goblins Army book, then review the Dwarf Army book, and then do another battle report with the Orcs versus the Dwarfs. And so we will have an opportunity to kind of see it all come together, and then we will have played with the Orcs and Goblins by the end of that. And maybe we will learn to have different opinions than we're about to express.
Maybe at the end of the battle report, we'll be like, what do you think of Orcs after playing them or whatever?
Have a little post-mortem.
Yeah. Okay, so Orcs in Warhammer Fantasy, in the fluff. Do you want to take us there? Who are these guys? I know they're crazy, kooky blokes
I think
40K, but
it's kind of interesting in terms of narrative and fluff. This book is one of the fluffiest, loriest, themey army books that I've gone through, where it just seems like everything is just seeping with this thematic material, where there's so many special rules trying to get you the sense of like what these orcs are actually like, how the hierarchy of power works in their society, things like that. But that's all done sort of just along the way, as there's sort of like individual little mini descriptions as the rules are explained and things like that. It's actually very light on a lore section.
Yes.
There's almost no specific lore section. There's a couple of narrative snippets, like little short story vignettes. And there's a map at the beginning that kind of shows the Badlands and where a lot of the Orc and Goblin tribes live.
Right.
And then there's a letter written from an explorer to somebody that is sort of like recounting his journey through these lands, type of an idea. So you get a little bit there. But I thought that was interesting that, compared to especially something like the Lizardmen book, which we reviewed already, there's so much lore in there that's getting into like the beginnings of the entire old world and like how all of these different races are interacting and things. So I thought it was fascinating that it at the same time felt like it was very lacking in any specific lore, but also just dripping in
theme.
Theme throughout. So
I wonder, I have no evidence, but I wonder if that was a case of how many pages can you put in these books and sell them at the cost.
And they used up all the pages with special rules.
Well, special rules and just the sheer number of units.
Yeah.
I think by individual unit entries, this has sometimes over double.
Wow.
I know Lizardmen is pretty low overall if you count each individual entry. This, I think, I didn't count before recording this, but I think is either near or around 30.
Wow.
So there's just a lot. And then, you add on to all these units to have page spread special rules, looking at you, Night Goblins, Giants, etc. It quickly fills up, so I wonder if that was like, what do we cut? Do we cut the hobby section at the back? No, we can't do that.
Right.
So
that's part of what we're selling. Right. Yeah, I never did think about that, but all of these army books are almost the exact same width, and so must be similar page counts, and that never really occurred to me. So
I'm
that's a good
sure
point.
there was, and I think that kind of, it's interesting. I think they went away from that, because you look at some of the 7th ed books, I know like Warriors of Chaos, that one in 7th is noticeably thicker. You just like hold it, and then you hold the Orc 7th book, and you're like, oh, these are not the same like girth or whatever. That was a weird choice of words, but they're not the same weight.
I like a girthy army book.
Yes. But neither here nor there. But I agree 100%. Dripping with theme. These are the guys kind of coming from the Southlands, which is this deserty or badlands. Sorry, not the Southlands.
Although there's some of that. They get into there a little bit, the northern areas of the Southlands.
That's true. And they're the stereotypical army that comes down. They're the barbarians or whatever, and they destroy civilization. Why? Because they like doing it.
Yes. So they're a little one-dimensional in terms of motivations, but they are thoroughly committed to that motivation. So I think that it kind of ends up working. The fact that might makes right is just fully integrated into their society is interesting. I think the way that they've represented that with the models and the unit types having things from snotlings, then you move up to goblins, then you move up to orcs, then you move up to big uns, then you move up to black orcs, then you move up to the war bosses and the bosses, things like that. And it literally is just the bigger they get, the more in charge they are and the more powerful they are. And it even talks a little bit about that's why, even though it maybe wouldn't seem like they would work with giants, that's why. It's because giants are so big. They're like, wow, these guys, we must want to work with them because they're so big. So, yeah, even though it's a little light, especially in this version of the army book on, what their culture is actually like and, what the day-to-day life looks like for an orc peasant. We don't need that because they're just here to fight stuff, to do as much fighting as they can. And I think that's thoroughly played out in the rules themselves. Despite the lack of a lore section, there were still a few interesting things that I picked up on as I was looking through what is there. One of them was the list of alternative types of greenskins from the map at the beginning. I don't know how closely you looked at the map, but there's some labels on there that kind of hint at some cool conversion ideas or maybe alternate rules that you could come up with for different types of greenskins. One was flying goblins. Somewhere in the bottom left, there's flying goblins happening. Kobolds are mentioned, as are fire kobolds. So that's another interesting thing that, there's not a specific model called a kobold or anything like that. So what does that mean? Maybe I could get some variations that look a little bit different for my models, make a more themey army. They mentioned bogarts. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right.
I always said boggart.
Because they're from bogs.
Sure.
I don't know.
I don't know. I've always just said boggart, but I could be wrong.
It's another one of those words I've read and never actually said out loud until this moment. So there you go.
Hooray.
Maybe some undead greenskins. There's also a section that says the dead do not rest easy here or something along those lines.
I think that's referring to the dead lands with the Tomb Kings and whatnot.
Okay, so that's getting towards them.
There probably are undead orcs. I think there's a mercenary unit.
There is, yeah.
That's got undead orcs, so
it can happen. But anyways, I just thought that was interesting that there's these little Easter eggs kind of hidden in this map that could lead you to just do some more interesting conversions or modeling opportunities with your orc army to make it look a little bit different than your typical greenskin army. I think white orcs are also mentioned in the bottom right-hand area. It's like rumors of white orcs or something like that. So you could do some albino orcs or something. So yeah, I thought that was cool. There is somewhere else in the book, it does note that all of these terms, kobolds, boggarts, all of those things are just terms that humans use to try to be scientific and academic about greenskins, and the greenskins themselves wouldn't recognize these variations or differences. So maybe they're barely different, but I think it could be fun to just run with that. Get some models that are actual kobolds that are a little more lizardy, maybe lizardy, goblin-y sort of a thing.
And these might be like individual war bands or tribes or whatever, so... One thing I noticed just looking at the map, which I like about a lot of these Warhammer maps, is it takes the existing world and it rotates it and it shows you it from a different perspective.
I didn't even notice that.
This has, I'm pretty sure north. Oh, it says it's pointing up, but to me, this almost looks like the Empire would be like over here.
Yeah, well, I think it is
there's
rotated a little
to the
bit
south, there. So it's kind of like tilted on its axis from how we typically see. Because there's the Border Princes there. Normally, that's kind of like. Here's the Empire, the Border Princes are at the tail end of the bottom, and this is kind of rotated on its axis.
Yeah, that's awesome. I didn't even pick up on that, but it sort of orients us around them.
The orc perspective of everything, and it's just they're in this pit, the Badlands, and then they're just surrounded by mountains and water. So, and then they just seemingly infest everything.
Yeah, so break out and go and wreck things. Another little snippet I saw on page 7 had just some narrative description of what the orcs are like and that sort of a thing, but there was some ideas for themed terrain, if that's the sort of thing you're looking for. So they talk about how, as they rampage through the land, they just build giant piles of everything that's not edible or that they're not going to take with them as loot. And so you could build these sort of big piles of military detritus And that could be weapons, armor, bones, and like it says in there, just the non-edible ruins of war. And so that could be something that could be just a totally different type of battlefield terrain that would probably count as impassable, but maybe you could make it into a hill or something like that. Could be fun. And just have something a little bit different than your standard terrain. It also mentions big totems to their gods, Gork and Mork, specifically sculpted from dung. Now, I'm not saying you want to go to your cat's litter box and get some actual dung. That's probably not what you want to do. But maybe you could explore some other modeling approaches or materials that could look like a dung sculpture and statue like that. But that could also be an opportunity for psychological warfare against your opponent if it does have some sort of a stench going on with it, and you plop that down on the table and see how that impacts your opponent's decision-making abilities during the battle.
I do, just going through all this, one thing that I'm taking away and in prepping for this is that orcs and the goblins, by extension, are always kind of seen as this comedy army.
Yeah.
There's that comic relief. And you really get that feeling in 40K, especially, I think, with the whole, like, you paint it red and they go fast. And we got, like, if we think it's real, it's real. And it's kind of all goofy, and it's like, don't ask questions. This is a little more down to earth, or a little more grounded, a little more scary, even.
Especially in the art.
Right.
Yeah.
So, like, that page 7, you just look at those guys, like, yeah, they're going to kill you and they're going to eat you.
Yeah.
Like, and then they're going to, like, it's kind of freaky. Like, it's a little, they make a big sculpture out of their dung or whatever, but it's like, wow, this is pretty dark.
Yeah, and if you actually think about them doing that, like,
right.
And then you're fighting on a battlefield that has these vicious, gigantic monsters, that would be terrifying. And it is an interesting balance in the book, because there is those descriptions of gruesome destruction. There's these images that make these guys look horrific, and then there's these just wild descriptions that are just clearly very goofy, like the Doom Diver catapult, where it's just describing like, and I mean, most of them end up dying, but what better way for a goblin to end their life than soaring over all of the orcs that used to look down on them, and they can finally look down on the orcs, and then they die. And that's just goofy and funny. So yeah, I think they do a pretty good job balancing the two sides of that. And as a player, you can kind of choose which of those you want to lean into. You could take a more serious approach, have a more cut and dry, grim paint scheme and things like that. But you could also just lean into the goofiness, which in some ways maybe is a good thing with all of the randomness in the rules that we'll get into in a little bit. But I think maybe that's also part of why they have that reputation as the comic relief army, is because if you can't learn to laugh at some of these random results, then you'll cry.
Indeed. Do you have any further thoughts before we dive into some of those random crying things?
The only other kind of narrative-y, fluffy thing I had to say is it always is kind of a bummer to me when I'm reading the narrative fluff and they say something pretty specific and then that's not reflected in the rules. And there was a couple of those. I think it specifically calls out, like, the orcs couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, but goblins are pretty better shots, but they're both ballistic skill 3. So it's just like, why even say that then if there's not going to be any difference? It describes orcs as not caring about pain, and that often results in them charging forward when they should be running, but there's not really anything about their stats or rules that does that besides the savage orcs who have frenzied and things. So it's just like, I guess that's kind of like evocative.
Their toughness 4, I guess.
Right. So I guess maybe that helps. So, and I'm sure it's just a me problem where I read those things and I'm like, oh, so there's going to be a rule for that. And then it's like, well, it didn't really pan out that way. So that's a absolutely minor, inconsequential gripe, but just something I notice when I read things like that.
Well, I think that's a great segue for me, because one of the rules that they talk about that I don't think is repped very well, jumping into kind of the special rules for the army, is Choppa. Choppa is a special rule. Basically, orcs don't have hand weapons. They have choppas. Which
should be really iconic, should be amazing, should be something that you feel like, I get choppas because I'm a Orcs and Goblins player.
Right. But it ends up, to me, feeling often a negative, or the positive is just rare. So they go to lengths to basically say you get it only the bonus, which is you basically get 1+1 strength on the charge, right?
And that's it.
But you have to be on foot. You can only have one choppa. You I guess that's really the main two things. One choppa on foot. Maybe there's a couple other things, but they like list all these things out, and they're like definitively, this is the only time you get this bonus.
Yeah, which I have not seen anywhere else in another army book that it calls something out that explicitly.
Right.
Like maybe they get that direction in the erratas and the FAQs sometimes, but in an actual army book, I was just like, wow, that was emphatic.
Yes, and it's almost to the book's not benefit. It's not to its benefit because it's so random. It's a core big special rule for your like mainstay guys, and it's just like this comes up sometimes.
Yeah.
And it comes, I didn't even say it comes with negatives too. So it's not just a strict bonus. You also can't parry.
Right. So you lose the extra +1 armor save if you have the shield and the choppa.
Correct.
It doesn't count as a hand weapon.
Yep. So it's just it's a special rule that comes with a negative, which isn't necessarily bad. Special rules can have negatives for fluff, but this one for me kind of fails. And then you look at what they did later, which was just, hey, you get +1 strength in the first round of combat. Like sick,
just
clean,
always doesn't interrupt
love
any other
it.
thing.
We don't have to think about it. Sure, it's only on foot or whatever. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
But like, and this is to say too, as somebody who hasn't played, I'm sure this does still come up. I mean, I play Lizardmen and my Saurus get to charge things sometimes, and they're still the same speed.
And there's some spells and things like that can help push things forward. And
so I'm sure it does come up, and I could see like, that being pretty good or whatever. But it's just as a kind of a big signature rule, their signature weapon, I find it a bit disappointing.
Yeah, and I think when you compare it to other options, for example, like you said, you lose it if you take 2 choppas, and having 2 orcs or having an orc make 2 attacks and everybody in that front rank's making 2 attacks probably mathematically is better for the entirety of the combat rather than only in the first round maybe having that +1 strength. I just can't imagine that the numbers add up.
It's definitely raises your maximum kill output, so, and thus by doing so probably raises your average a lot. So that you're absolutely right. The only big negative there is then if you do have a shield, you get a little bit better armor save, which is fine, I guess. But we'll get into that when we talk about boys. Any final thoughts on choppas, King?
No, I pretty much agree with everything you said. I just want to read a quote from its emphatic explanation because I just thought it was funny.
Nice.
And so they said, quote, "They want to put the matter beyond any shadow of doubt. Only orcs on foot benefit from choppas, not goblins, not mounted orcs, not models on chariots, not small boys called Kevin, not gerbils, not anything else ever, never, okay." Which is like, wow, that's some rules writing right there.
Yeah, I like it.
The next army-wide special rule has to do with panic, and so I really like this. This is really thematic. It really feels like it fits the vibe of the orcs and goblins. Essentially what this is talking about is each type of greenskin will not panic if a lesser type of greenskin is doing something that would normally cause panic. And so we've talked about that in our rules review of Warhammer Fantasy Battles 6th edition in general, and the rules we always forget. So if you want to refer to that, you can.
Yeah.
But in general, it means the orcs will not flee or panic when goblins are doing things that would cause panic, and then black orcs will not panic when orcs are doing things that would cause panic, et cetera, et cetera. And that just, again, really makes it feel like, there is this hierarchy where the bigger orcs really just don't care about the lesser orcs. They're just laughing that they're dying and like, aha, that's what they were for, kind of a thing. And it honestly helps make this army feel a little more viable with things like the goblins' really low leadership. Feels like it should have a low leadership, but now that's not completely hamstringing the rest of your army. So you can kind of have both of those.
I think they did a good job kind of streamlining this basic same effect in later books where I think it got trimmed into size matters. And instead of having ignore goblin panic, ignore greenskin panic, ignore, or whatever, they're just like, hey, if you're bigger, you ignore the smaller guy. So it was just like one rule, but same basic effect. And I agree 100%. I like that it kind of almost encourages you kind of hopscotching. That's probably the wrong word to use. Checkerboarding, like goblin, orc, or whatever, black orc in there.
Right.
And so it's like, hey, if one guy fled, the other guys, they just don't give a crap or whatever. So it's almost kind of fun. You're interspersing or whatever. I think that's kind of neat. And it seems fluffy. Yeah. Because the orcs would be like, I don't care about those goblins. I'm going to like eat them later.
Right.
So like, but you know what? If they're dead now, who cares? I'll eat them dead or alive, whatever. So I love that rule. for after that, this is kind of a quick one. Goblins fear elves. Just all goblins. It's pointed out this probably doesn't come up a ton because elves generally are very expensive points wise, and I would expect most goblin units to be rather large. So I doubt you're getting auto broken very often.
Yeah.
However, you're probably not doing great on your fear checks. And you're going to hit on 6s a lot, but you probably weren't going to win those combats anyway because your weapon skill 2.
Yeah.
So
there's also the caveat that if you outnumber the elves 2-1, then you no longer suffer from fear. So that also, because goblins are so cheap and elves are more expensive, there's at least the possibility that that could end up being the case, which I think is also very themey. I mean, in a lot of the art throughout the book, you see these mobs of goblins just like jumping on people and stabbing, like completely swarming over them. And so, yeah, it just makes sense that if you have enough of your friends around you, you're not going to be so scared of those pointy-eared freaks anymore.
Yeah, they smell weird. Yeah, mirror all that, 100%.
Yeah, but as with any rule like this, there's a few of these sort of like racial rules throughout Warhammer where it just makes certain matchups harder for kind of no reason, no points compensation. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, that's themey, but it'd almost be like, let's save that for a specific narrative scenario where we decide to introduce that rather than it being like, well, now I just never want to play against high elves if I can help it because it just makes my army worse immediately.
Yeah, I agree. I like it for the theme, but yeah, it's just like, okay, I just get a negative and no compensation. Yeah. So I don't know. It's not the end of the world.
Not at all. Not at all. And just I think the type of players that we are in the group we're in, nobody's really that worried about it. Nobody's trying to power game that much that this is a deal breaker for anybody.
The elves need the help.
Well, that's fair.
I'm just messing. I don't know. Okay.
Next up, we've got War Paint, and this is a specific rule for Savage Orcs and all the different varieties that you can take them. And it's kind of a cool, unique rule that sets them apart from other greenskins. So I like that there's just this additional element that helps make this subtype of orc feel even more different than the other ones, because when you start making too many subtypes of things, and I think the dwarfs suffer from this a little bit, where there's like barely any difference between these different dwarf units, and you're like, kind of, why do these exist?
Look for our opinions on that next episode.
Exactly. So I like that this is just one more thing. And I think that this type of a rule is great inspiration if you wanted to, again, like we talked about in the narrative bit, take some inspiration for creating special rules for kobolds or flying goblins or whatever of these other subtypes of greenskins that there are. Just a little rule like War Paint can help. And War Paint is a 6+ ward save if the Savage Orc boys take the War Paint upgrade and have painted themselves with the War Paint. And the sort of trade-off to that is they have less armor typically than normal orcs.
Yeah, they can't wear armor, but they can have a shield.
So you can get a 6-up save from your shield and a 6-up ward save.
Yep.
There you go.
You could then theoretically pair... Oh, wait, you can't because you're an orc. You got Choppa. Sorry. But yeah, no, I love this rule. I think it's fun. Ward saves are, I think, maybe not underrated, but they're just... They never get negative. Sure, it's a 6-up, but...
It'll happen
You're
sometimes.
going to roll some 6s. It happens. So some guys will just not die when they should have. So that's always cool. I like that. And I could see just like a big heavy cav unit rolling in, killing supposed to be 4 or whatever, and somebody spikes roll and only 2 die or whatever. And then it's like, oh man, now it's completely over. Because now all these orcs are going to hit back. And even if they don't kill anybody, they're going to win on static res, and then next turn you don't have lances, and oh my goodness.
Right, and they're frenzied, so if they win that combat, they're still frenzied.
They're still frenzied, so I hope you like Pain. Love War Paint. And then for me, we have my kind of favorite special rule. This is a weird thing that it's listed here, but it is kind of an army choice. They have options to make 1 orc unit in the army, 1 unit. Biggins, and it's basically just an upgrade. You pay extra points. It changes depending on which unit is upgraded, but they typically go from weapon skill 3 to 4. They gain strength, and that's kind of the main thing.
Yeah, which I think is sort of similar to Chaos Warriors being able to become chosen, or Empire Knights becoming Inner Circle. So it's that type of a unit upgrade that just makes their stats better.
You are absolutely correct. It's good thing you can only do this once, because I think it's so actual. I don't want I don't know if I'd say undercosted, but it seems like a crazy value on some units, where just a normal orc boy, which we'll get into, I'm sure, for 2 points, you're getting strength 4 and another weapon skill.
Yeah.
I mean, and then you think, oh, you get the Choppa charge. I'm strength 5, and I'm like a core basic dude for 7 points, I guess.
It's
right?
So cheap.
And that it seems really good value. Just stat padding. And what orcs really have going for them is kind of like dwarves. They've got high toughness just built in.
Yeah.
A lot of armies wish they had tough 4.
Right.
You play tough 3 armies, then you play a tough 4 one. You're like, wow, this feels so.
I can't kill anything.
I can't. It feels so much better. But orcs just getting that strength 4 access for 1 unit in their army, or just gives them so much more punching power, and I think it allows that unit to have different build options too. So I really love the Biggins rule. It also seems fluffy that you got this 1 unit that's representing the biggest and the baddest from the tribe.
But not quite black orcs yet.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think it just adds that one more level of granularity in that hierarchy of power that the orcs have in their culture. I think it's a great opportunity to model a unit a little bit cooler or beefier, etc. And maybe that's annoying because maybe you want to change which units the big ones this time and that time, but I think it'd still be cool just to convert a few guys, make them actually look like the bigger ones or the command models or something like that, and that could just be a fun way to differentiate who the big ones are from the rest of your units, which I think is also helpful for your opponent, just to be able to keep track of who's who.
Do you want to talk about the big elephant in the room?
Yeah, so I think we just mentioned that the orc boys, even with this upgrade to Biggins, can be so cheap, but that's because they and everything else, most other things in the army, have this rule called animosity.
Yeah.
So this is definitely one of the most notable features of a Greenskins army. It's what a lot of people know about when they first think of Greenskins, and I would say it's one of the most loved or hated features. Some people who like to really lean into the chaos and randomness of the orcs and goblins are just like, yeah, it's just part of the game, that's what's happening, and they're all about it. And there's a 1 in 36 chance that it actually makes your guys run further forward, so woohoo, exciting. But I think most people feel like it's just a drag, that it's just making you not play the game in some instances. So I think, if you're going to fully embrace the lore narrative side of things, then it's great, makes the army feel like it is an unruly rabble, and if you hate randomness, this might just be a deal breaker for you.
Yeah,
but to clarify what this actually is, most greenskin units have this rule, and it essentially means that if their unit has 5 or more models in it, and it does specify models, not unit strength, then you have to roll a die at the beginning of every single turn, and on a 2 through 6, nothing happens. They just follow your orders, do what you want them to do. But if you roll a 1 for a unit, then they suffer from animosity. And that essentially means that they're going to start fighting with each other. And they've got some really fluffy, interesting descriptions of what they're doing and that sort of a thing. But
they roll another D6.
You roll another D6. And if you roll a 1, they actually will charge a nearby friendly unit or shoot them with missile weapons, which is really rough. They can also charge sideways and backwards to do this.
Yes.
They will just turn and attack. And so the idea there is that, oh, we heard those guys calling us names, or like last night they cheated us when we were gambling and now we're going to beat them up. So that's pretty bad on the 1. On a 2 through 5, your unit just starts fighting amongst themselves, and it just means they don't do anything for that turn until the commander can get them back in order. And then on a 6, you do get that extra move, and you get to make a full move forward, which can be helpful to close with the enemy.
Generally, that's probably good for most units. I'm sure there's some situations where that isn't good either, but...
Yeah, but most orc units want to just be in combat with the enemy, because also you don't have to test for animosity when you're in combat.
Indeed.
So the closer you get to that, typically the better. So yeah, I mean, this shouldn't be happening too much because it is only on a 1, but the more units you have in your army, the worse your odds become that somebody's going to fail their animosity test. I've seen some battle reports on YouTube where people are just failing them left and right, and it just leaves their whole army in disarray and fleeing off the battlefield after they fought each other and things. Although I should clarify, these fights don't cause normal combat resolution and fleeing and pursuit or anything like that. They just kind of go back to what they were doing afterwards, and I think you separate them by an inch or something like that. But still, you're just like wrecking your own units, and so that's never fun because they both fight each other.
It is the rule that, well, I think you kind of already said it, so I'll try to keep it brief. This is the rule that if you want to get into Warhammer Fantasy and you're thinking, do I want to play Orcs and Goblins? This is the rule that you need to kind of make your break with, I would say. Even if you love them from a thematic perspective, I could see this being really frustrating to deal with. I think most people say paint the army, pick the army you like the look of. This is like one of the cases where I'd be like, well, do that, but also consider this, because like if you do like being in control in a game where frankly you're not going to be in control with any army mostly unless you play undead. That's probably the closest you can get to being in fully control.
Yeah.
But if you like that, this is completely the opposite of it. Like you were saying, I feel like every battle report I see with orcs, because they're pretty popular.
Yeah.
There's always, I mean, because you think this is a horde army, you're going to have 7 units testing a turn or something. I don't know. I pulled that number out of nowhere, but you're going to fail 1 a turn statistically.
Yeah.
So one of your units in your army is just going to do nothing.
And it's in a game that requires already, like we've talked about in past episodes, precision in movement, precision in keeping your battle line properly ordered. And when you start getting hiccups in your battle line, things can fall apart really quickly.
Yeah, I could see even like you get an animosity like on a turn and you get the 6 and you're either going to charge up and then they roll really far, but it's too early on. So now you've got one unit jut out in front of the rest of your own lines, and you might be like, yeah, they're going to go get them. But it's like strategically, now that unit is isolated or whatever. And that's where you have to be like, that's this army. You got to roll with the punches, because there'll also be the time where something was hopeless was going to happen, and then they just got a charge when the opponent wasn't expecting it, and now that's completely ruined their day or whatever. So got to take the good with the bad. And
yeah, and I think that again is where some people love it, some people hate it. If you're the type of player that is all in on that lore side of theme stuff where you're like, yeah, I'm going to take the good and the bad because I just love the chance that it could happen, then this is probably the army for you. But if that would drive you nuts and make you throw up your hands in distress, then this is probably not the army for you. But I do like that there's some ways to mitigate some of these potential issues.
Yes.
One thing, obviously that roll of a 1 where you go and charge or attack one of your own friendly units is really bad. But that only happens if there is a viable target. So like you were saying earlier with the panic thing and checkerboarding, you can do that a little bit and split up your units with units that don't suffer from animosity. And that could be things like giants, chariots, stuff like that. And so as long as there's not something that they could charge or shoot at, then you don't have to do it. So that's helpful. There's also rules for black orcs being able to quell animosity, which we'll talk about when we get to the black orcs. But it essentially, within 6 inches of a black orc or a black orc unit, you can re-roll your animosity test. And again, I like that that's thematic, because they just have to look at you once and you're like, oh, we got to get back in line.
Well, they're the exception too, because they don't test for animosity because they got it together or whatever.
Yeah, they're not going to fight each other. They know who the enemy is here. Yeah. And I like that they also include a section in the book that addresses these strategies when they talk about the animosity rules, and they call it out that like, this could be really rough and you got to know that you're getting into it. And I like that they're upfront about that. They're not trying to just pretend that this is great, everybody should love this. But they actually talk about it in pretty straightforward terms. And then they call out those issues, but they also offer some strategies about like how you can mitigate it, and then give some good narrative and fluff framing to be able to embrace and enjoy the randomness of this rule. So I think that's a really helpful add.
Right. No, 100%. I like that they have that whole page. I mean, that's like a 2-page spread explaining all this and talking about the psychology behind it and how to minimize. So mirror everything you say. Any final thoughts on the elephant in the room? That is animosity.
No, I think we've covered it.
For me, then let's jump into, if you're cool with it, why don't we go into their green skin magic? This is unique to orcs. They can't take any of the core lores, unlike Empire and Lizardmen, which are kind of taking the core lores. So before I go into the lores individually, I'll note too, they have their own unique miscast table,
which is brutal.
This is super terrible. Joke, remember, again, I guess riding the theme of randomly bad. This has like, your guy just dies on it.
And it's only on a D6, not 2D6.
Correct. So you miscast with your Shaman Lord character, costs 200 some points, and he miscasts turn 1. He could die, and then everyone he was standing next to also takes a strength 10 hit. So he not only kills himself, he probably takes a few homies with him.
Yeah.
And almost all of the options are bad. And even the good option, air quote, which is the spell just goes off, you have to keep rolling on the chart. So you there's no like get out of jail,
Right,
like
because something bad will eventually happen.
right, something terrible is gonna happen no matter what. And a lot of these are just like your guy is gonna die. Like there's one that's D6 strength 5 hits with no armor saves.
Yeah,
Like
hard to survive that.
right, so it just seems very punishing. So maybe for this army something that maybe it's worth getting some more miscast protection. I can see that being an investment. But the other cool part of them is they get bonuses to casting when they're within 12 inches of units in combat.
Yeah.
They get extra power dice, I should say, and dispel dice. So again, rewarding, kind of like you were saying, if we can get big units into combat, I think it's 10 orcs in combat or 20 goblins and the shaman's within 12 inches of him at the start of the magic phase, he just gets more dice.
Yep.
So it's just kind of a bonus, and it makes you want to play them up close, fighty. As far as wizards go, which we'll go into for the stats when we get there, they're a little tougher, especially the orc ones. So there's some good options there. The big takeaway for how it works is just, man, that miscast table, and I would play it like, hey, if I happen to be within somebody fighting and I get a bonus die, sweet. But I wouldn't like...
Not going to rely on it.
Exactly. Yeah. I wouldn't plan my whole strategy. It just treat it as a bonus when it comes up. Sweet. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I would totally agree. The miscast table is pretty rough, but it, again, makes sense. They explain it well, that it's this sort of like wild wah energy that they're drawing on, and I think they even describe it in more like the human terms of it's their collective psyche that's energizing them, that sort of a thing. But yeah, it's, I think, a cool system. And I just really like that it's tied into the combat element. So even the magic is really just about melee.
Right. I almost wish, and they kind of, I guess, did like weird signature things on lores later. Mm-hmm. And like 8th edition and stuff, where the little special stuff would happen. Yeah. This is kind of, for me, that's like a little precursor. It's like, WoW Magic has this like weird little extra special rule about it. And I wish like, oh, if I was a Heavens Wizard, then, I don't know, maybe just he gets one reroll a turn just because he is a Heavens Wizard. And if he's a Fire Wizard, maybe he's, I don't know, something like that. Just little things, not saying to do this, but I love the little...
that it feels unique. It feels like this is my magic lore. It's totally different kind of a thing. Yeah.
Nobody else gets to do this. Yeah. And without further delay, let's go into the WAs. They changed how this works in later editions, so this is kind of interesting. So there's the little WA and there's the big WA. So later on, this used to separate by goblin versus orcs. Mm-hmm. So only goblin shamans could take little WA and only orcs could take big WA. In this, it's limited to lords versus heroes, more or less.
Which I think makes sense.
Sure. So, whereas the lords can kind of pick between either, almost like a salon. Mm-hmm. They can kind of roll on both charts. Level 2 or level 1 wizards, your hero levels, they're just going to be taken to Little Wa. For me, Little Wa itself seems pretty safe. You got a lot of good magic missiles on there and a lot of attack spells. Headbutt, I think, is low-key really good, and I'll talk about that in combination with some magic items later on. Okay. That allows you to just reach out and snipe somebody with no armor saves, so you can just start plinking out.
Yeah, so even a character inside a unit, you can pick them out and hit them with this.
Worst case, you're taking out a champion, maybe. So I love that, and it's got a good 24-inch range, and it goes off on a 7. And then you've got cool movement spells like Hand of Gork, which is kind of like just a move 2d6 charge to the nearest guy. And that could, again, that gets maybe your normally average speed orcs with choppas. You just marched up in, and then you're like, okay, on my magic phase, I'm going to go for this, and I need to get like a 7. That's average, you know. Now the orcs got in, and they moved 15 inches in a turn because of this. Yeah. So seems like a good supporting lore with a lot of good magic missiles, but nothing really jumped out to me as like so amazing that
that would be unbalanced with other lores or anything. Yeah.
Totally solid and fine.
Yeah, and all of it feels very orky, and again, great example just throughout this book of really thematic descriptions of everything and how they describe these spells.
And then Big Wa. So I'll be curious what you think of this, but I'll give my thoughts first just because that's where we're at. Yeah. I actually think this is a little less exciting. I think the Little Wa is very consistent. Like there's not a spell on there that I'm like particularly disappointed with. Mm-hmm. Whereas some of these, specifically Gork'll Fix It, and Basham Lads. Basham Lads is okay, but those two spells to me, the second and third one, are kind of meh to me. I love the Foot of Gork and Gork's Warpath. There's no doubt anybody who puts those down, I don't know what you're talking about. That's the OG. That's the Foot of Gork. You know, just a big foot coming out of the sky stomping on people. And then
maybe stomping on a lot of people.
He could stomp on a lot of people. He could stomp on your own people.
Yes.
He just stomps all over the place. I love it. And then Wah, the level 6 spell, is just the Hand of Gork, but your whole army.
Yeah.
I wonder, though, how often do you want the whole army to do that for a 12 plus versus just, being able to selectively pick one guy on a 9? Things I think about,
Yeah. I mean, it could just be that turn right before you would otherwise be in.
Sure.
And this gets you that extra little bit.
And maybe that's my inexperience talking. Maybe all the experienced Orcs and Goblin players are like, are you kidding me? Wow, we cast it every turn and the whole army moves up, or whatever. But it's Little Wah, I come away from going awesome.
Yeah.
Big Wah, I go, okay, Mork save us. That's cool. It's the Heavens spell.
Yeah.
And then Foot of Gork / Warpath. It's like the same spell, but
multiple units potentially.
Yeah, multiple units. So I don't know. Came away thinking, meh.
Yeah. I like Gork'll Fix It and Basham Lads. I've said this before with when we talked about the changes between 6th and 7th edition, and they were adding some more utility spells, and that's what I feel like these are. I like just seeing spells that buff units, and I think 6th edition doesn't have a ton of those. And so, yeah, I just like seeing that sort of a thing in there because it gives you more options, especially once your units are in combat, to keep influencing the battle once everybody's stuck in. And so I think especially for Orcs and Goblins, that's really helpful because your whole point is to get stuck in. You're not keeping a lot of units back or trying to not engage. You want to be in combat. And so having a couple of spells that can continue to give you utility while you're in combat, I think is really helpful. And I think they're at reasonable casting levels to do that.
Sure.
Rerolling armor saves is really nice. I like that. Rerolling to hit can be really nice.
Yeah.
So
let me clarify. I love that they're buffs. I think they need to be better buffs. I wish there's a necromancy spell that does a very similar thing to Basham Lads, if not the same thing. I don't like that it has to be on only this round. I wish it lasted like a whole turn.
Okay.
I wish it did that. And Gork'll Fix It. My problem is this is kind of a low armor army. Maybe that's okay on some Boar Riders. I don't know. Tell me what you think, experienced Orcs players. Maybe I'm totally off here, but I guess re-rolling 3-ups isn't terrible, right?
Absolutely, yeah. On the Boar Riders, that's great. But honestly, even re-rolling 4 or 5-up is great because then there's
just not a lot of 4-ups.
Well, that's true. But a 5-up, that's not bad. You'll get some that you didn't get. So yeah,
it's true. I just wish I don't know. I guess what I almost wished it was, and this is complaining about something that doesn't exist. I wish it was like give that unit a 6-up ward save on top of the reroll armor save, not instead of.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. But I don't know. I do love that it's a buff. Okay, now we're going into the meat and potatoes. We're gonna go through the army list. Before we do this, we'll just kind of say we're gonna because there are so many unit entries, we're gonna
we'll combine things. Yes, so for example, there's an Orc war boss, a Black Orc war boss, and a Savage Orc war boss. We're just going to talk about Orc war bosses, and then we'll mention those differences as we go, and we'll do things a little bit out of order here and there just to keep things efficient and streamlined, I think. But before we kick off into those Orc war bosses, I think it's worth noting that there is a special option available, and that's if you only take Goblin characters, you unlock an extra Goblin Big Boss slot per 1,000 points. So in a 2,000 point game, if you're only doing Goblin characters, then you can get 2 extra Goblin Big Bosses. So I think that does help with the possibility of an all Goblin list being viable. I don't know if it helps enough, honestly.
You could do I'm sure there's some power gamer stuff that somebody knows about, because they're in 6th edition, you can put all characters in the front rank. So what you could probably get away with going 4 wide is you could have a unit with a bunch of 2-point models in it for combat res, and then you have 4 heroes in the front,
and so
all with 3 attacks each or whatever, and hey, that doesn't actually sound too bad.
Yeah, that's fair. I do kind of wish that this was allowed just anyways, whether it's all Goblin heroes or not, just because like a 30-point Goblin Big Boss is not much, or like if you could just get an extra shaman instead or something.
It would be cool if they were 2 for 1.
Yeah.
Kind of like some of these.
Yeah,
other
that would be
units.
like where you can get 2 spear throwers or whatever
Per slot?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So if
that
it was
would be
something
neat.
like that, because like specifically for it. But again, that's from 0 experience doing this, so maybe that would be way too powerful. I don't know, but I think it's just worth noting. It's kind of hidden in there because that page about army composition is almost identical for every single army. But then sometimes, like this, there's like one little paragraph that throws in a totally different thing like this. So just worth pointing out there.
I'm glad you brought it up. Okay. War bosses. So you got 3 varieties. You got your bog standard orc war boss for 110 points. He's your lord. He's got leadership 9, 4 attacks, 3 wounds, etc. Weapon skill 6. Very average all across the board. Where he's above average is his toughness is 5. That's many armies wish they had toughness 5.
Yeah.
The elves wish they had toughness 4. So that's really his big strength. He's got a lot of options. You could go just for great weapons, heavy armor. He, of course, can take 100 points of magic items. He comes with a choppa built in. So on the charge, he's strength 5 if you're just keeping him with nothing.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of no frills for me. Initiative 4 is good for an orc, too. That might come up if he's not running a great weapon. Although, frankly, strength 6 all the time is kind of hard to say no to for myself. And I think this is going to be a theme, so I'm curious to see what you think. For 25 points more, you can take a black orc war boss, and he's almost the same, except he's strength 5 and better weapon skill, and he quells animosity. For me, I have a hard time not seeing the value there if you're like playing for like looking for the value, right? So like for 25 more points, I'm getting a strength. Normally that's like a magic item, which costs
Right.
20. And I'm getting a weapon skill, which admittedly weapon skill is not the best stat to have. However, 7 is good because
Right,
that's
so that
over
puts you
double
higher.
3.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's a good one to hit. And then quell animosity too. We just waxed lyrical about how animosity can be backbreaking. To me, it's hard for me to go like, oh yeah, the war boss is super good. I think he's fine. But for a little bit more, you get basically just a more killy guy who's better at fighting and it adds consistency to the army. What do you think?
I totally agree. I think your point about the way to get those other upgrades, typically through magic weapons, kind of help us see the cost that some of those typically have. And because of that, I think we can see that it is pretty well costed to get those upgrades for only 25 more points. So I would agree, if you're going to use a war boss for your lord, you might as well find those extra 25 points somewhere and stick them in there. I don't know that if you're really hurt for points, then you could do the orc war boss.
Anyway,
yeah,
right? Because otherwise
you're not getting a
taking
lord.
lords.
Yeah. So yeah, I think there could potentially be an argument for doing a great shaman as your lord instead, in which
Sure.
case, yeah, well, you're only getting the one lord at 2,000 points. But if you're going to do the war boss route, I totally agree. It just makes sense to do the black orc version of it. And I think it kind of makes sense. They're supposed to be the biggest, baddest orcs. So why wouldn't you choose the biggest, baddest one to lead your army?
Yeah, and I want to point out for him too, this takes him up when he hits that weapon skill 7, strength tough to 5. He's same weapon skill as an elf lord, and he's strength tough 5. This is a killy bloke. The only people who are really scarier than him, just raw, is like a chaos lord and certain vampire characters that I can think of.
Yeah. I will say that the one caveat to this is he costs an extra hero slot.
Oh, does he? I didn't even read that. Okay,
Yeah.
that's a huge difference then.
Yeah, so it's
Wow.
not just 25 points. It's 25 points and
Okay.
you're at one less hero.
Well,
so
now I feel stupid because to me, that's gigantic.
And that's also true if you take the just Black Orc Big Boss as well. So either way, it's an extra
that's
hero.
huge.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that I often
Ugh.
have a hard time giving up those extra hero slots
Yeah.
because it's, and that's where it feels like if I could just get an extra Goblin Big Boss, just as a 2-for-1, like we were saying, I wouldn't feel as bad about giving up that hero slot because I'd be able to fill it in with the goblins and then still feel like I'm getting something. But just giving it up completely, and now that I have an orc war boss in my army, I just am not allowed to get the extra goblin. So I think that's a very big caveat. But I think the benefits that you're getting for only 25 points, the quelling animosity is super helpful. This is one of the few times where I think I might actually be willing to give up the extra hero slot. I don't think I would ever do it for the big boss version, but I think I might do it for the warlord version.
Man, that changes so much of my opinion. I'm so sorry that people must have been scratching their monitors while I was talking earlier. Good. That's a huge deal to me. But ooh, at 2K, you're getting 1 Lord and 4 heroes, but you can only have 4 characters total, right?
Right.
Oh. And that's just,
So it's just
I
one
love
Lord
having
and 2
all my
heroes then
characters.
at that point.
Yeah.
Or
I don't
3,
know.
sorry.
I'm sure there's some effective builds, but that does change my mindset on that a lot. Now, I agree. I think for the 135 points cost, that Black Orc War Boss is terrifying and very good value, but that is a huge offset. But maybe the quell animosity is worth it.
Yeah, and you're not losing the points, so you get to spend them elsewhere that you're not spending on that extra hero slot, and so it's just more guys in the army elsewhere.
That's true. Before we move to the Savage Orc War Boss, what do you think of the Wyvern?
That, I think, suffers from the same problem that the Electrocount on Griffin does, which is this army really needs the general's leadership in the main battle line, and the Wyvern excels if it's using its fly ability to go behind and harass the enemy from the rear or attack war machines and things like that. And so I think it's awesome. It's one of the coolest models. The era Wyvern that they have from the 6th Ed era is just so cool.
Yeah.
But I just don't know that I ever would want to pay that many points for something that's going to ultimately probably hurt my army more than it's going to help me destroy my opponent's army. What do you think?
I mirror that completely. You're one of these 2 war bosses are leadership 9. They're going to be your only source of leadership 9 in this whole army, unless you're going weird like goblin war boss with like special magic item things, and flying away from your bricks who potentially have a leadership 7.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like super great.
Yeah, I would, if I owned that model,
yeah,
because I love it so much, I'd still probably try to run it like I've tried to run my Electrocount on a Griffin, because I love that model. But if I did that, I probably would still keep him with my main battle line and just use him as a hammer kind of unit, but not get the most out of the Wyvern. I think I probably could, but still use it because it's cool.
Sure.
And I think that's, again, we've talked about this idea of cooperative list building. So if you're playing someone, you're like, I really want to bring the Wyvern. Could we maybe you just don't take everything that's as optimized for your army list because I'm taking a non-optimal choice. Right. Like, let's just work together to make this feel a little bit more
maybe don't
competitive.
Have 3 cannons.
Yeah, for example.
Wyvern.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. I don't know how often that comes up, but yeah, no, I agree. I the only thing about the Wyvern is that pardon me, it's only got 2 attacks base, and then it's got this weird tail attack thing.
Yeah.
That is the most 6th Ed thing ever, where it's like you're going to make 2 attacks at normal strength, and then we're going to have you like wait till the end of combat, and then you're going to roll 1 more dice with poison attack on it.
Yeah, and you still get to do it even if you already died.
And yeah, it's just so random and very specific.
Yeah. And nothing else is like that.
And nothing else in the entire game does anything like that, so I could see myself forgetting it and just consistently, and I wish it was just 3 attacks.
Yeah, I think that's potential issue with a lot of this army book is that there's so many little random things that the chance of me forgetting a lot of them is very high. So I think having things like tokens and reminders and things like that would be essential for me playing this army because of all of the things that are easy to forget. And again, there's a lot of YouTube battle reports where I've seen where they just forget to even roll animosity, which is like a huge deal. It's not even that corner case of a rule. So yeah, I agree that can be problematic.
Yeah.
Any specific loadouts for war bosses in terms of gear that you'd be excited about?
If you're going super defensive, one item that stood out to me, I think is it the Iron Skin Shield? I believe it is. Yeah. So this is a cool shield. So if you're not going with a great weapon build, which I think is totally justifiable when you have 3 wounds.
Yeah.
What I've come to realize is people just aren't hitting you enough to injure you enough to where I think I overinvest in defense in Lords, unless you know you're going to be dueling.
Yeah.
If you're just mulching guys, you can probably just go great weapon, heavy armor, and you're going to be just fine.
Yeah, you'll at least survive 1 round of combat to hit.
But if you wanted to go crazy, it's a huge game. I like the Iron Skin Shield. It gives you just a normal shield, but then you get a 4-up ward.
Yeah, which is great.
Heavy armor in this is a 4-up, 4-up. That seems really cool. Now it's half your magic points allowance, but that still gives you something to do with your magic weapon, or you could just leave it as a choppa. I don't know. I would do something fun with it. There's a lot of weapons in this book. Some of them aren't very great, I admit, but tons to pick from. And I frankly, you could kind of mirror, I think, whatever you do for the orc boar boss for the black orc one. I think whatever will work for one will work just fine for the other, except it's better with the black orc. Particularly of note, great weapons with the black orc hit the coveted strength 7, so they're instant gibbing chariots.
Yeah.
So that can be something that if an opponent doesn't know it, probably tell them before they run their chariot into your black orc boar boss with a great weapon, and he kills it in one hit.
You did that to my Warriors of Chaos chariot with a vampire one time.
But he had the wolf form though,
yeah,
so
and it was amazing.
Cool.
Yeah, it was super cool.
It was.
He launched out of his unit, charged across.
It was like 18-inch charge.
Yeah, it was great.
I'm
not upset. I'm just saying, like, that's the type of thing that it can create that moment that could be devastating for somebody not expecting that to happen, or even aware that it could happen.
Right.
Speaking of chariots, though, would you ever put War Boss in a chariot?
As somebody who hasn't played armies with access to many chariots like this with character mounts as a character mount, I'm fascinated by the option, because chariots to me are just this support unit, really.
Yeah.
And it's like, does this add enough killiness to where I could just feel confident running this at 20 swordsmen? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Maybe
it does. Black orcs are pretty scary. I mean, that's 4 attacks extra at weapon skill 7. He's hitting on 3s. I think you could do worse. Again, though, the problem potentially runs into, is this your general? Is he flying away from the main group of guys who need his
so
leadership?
Maybe a big boss on there, but not the
I think I would go more big boss than war boss.
Yeah.
I think war boss, I would either go boar if I'm like on a very speed heavy list,
where everything can keep up with him.
Right. So I got lots of boars, lots of chariots, and then maybe some war machines behind, just kind of doing stuff in the meantime. And then otherwise, if I'm going like green tide or whatever you want to call it, I think you just put him on foot amongst his homies. And then he's going to go bash kids. Yeah. So
I would agree. I've also never put a character in a chariot. I've played Warriors of Chaos, and so have taken a chariot, as I just mentioned.
Yeah.
But it because of the fact that it can get one shot by a high strength thing like that, it just seems like a dangerous thing to put your character in.
They just survive that, right?
Do they? They just fall off.
I think they fall out.
I guess I don't even know the rules because I've never done it.
Double check that.
Yeah.
Tell us, listeners.
But it also makes them a target for magic and things like that, cannons. So. Well, although maybe that's the same thing where they wouldn't die from that. I don't know. We'll have to look that up, or you can tell us in the comments. But either way, I'm also fascinated by it. It's a really cool idea. I've seen some really cool models and conversions of characters in chariots that look awesome. But I just don't actually know if they end up being effective enough to be worth it. So maybe we just need to try it.
Thematically, it seems right, because in a lot of media, like, where's the general of the big ancient army? It's a guy on a chariot, and he's just like there. Now, orcs aren't your typical, ancient army with like a king. This is like a warrior king. On a chariot.
But even the barbarians would do that in
the Britons.
Yeah, they would ride in chariots and things, and
I love it.
An element of status. So I think it makes sense, and it makes them a little bit bigger than the people around him. So I think that's very orky as well.
Indeed.
So now the next war boss option is the Savage Orc War Boss. We do just want to quickly acknowledge that people have brought up legitimate concerns about the way that Savage Orcs are portrayed
just
as
in general.
This idea that they're dumber orcs, and that's why they're acting this way, because they've been out in the sun too long and they come from a little further south in the Badlands into the Southlands kind of a thing. And so we don't want to get into that. That's not the purpose of this episode. We're going to be talking about it just in terms of the mechanics as a product of its time sort of a thing. But we do just want to acknowledge that there are legitimate reasons that people have to be bothered by the way that this particular subtype of orc is portrayed in the descriptions of it and things like that.
For sure, yeah. And I won't belay the point at all. Savage Orc War Boss, I love him. I think he's great. I love Frenzy on a Lord. It does change how you have to approach him, because he's just running full steam ahead. pretty much.
And that's why I was surprised to hear you say that, because I was, frenzy on my lord that's going to just run away from my battle line, and I need his
let me
leadership
clarify.
9.
I'm only taking him when I'm doing Savage Orc like theme.
Where everybody's doing it?
Because if I've got 3 units of Savage, we're all running up ahead anyway.
True.
So to me, it's like we're just full sending. This turns into almost like you're playing Khorne, but you're not Khorne. You're orcs, right? So it's just like we're just going.
Yeah.
Right? Like I don't care. I don't need leadership 9. My army is frenzied. We're all immune to psychology. I don't care about panic checks. Like, just go. Like, throw him on a boar. Go. You know, like, I love him on a boar. Give him a spear. I love him on foot. Give him an additional hand weapon. Then he's going to have 6 attacks. 6 attacks, guys. 6 attacks. Now, sure, he's only strength 4 then, but, like, that's just going to clobber some kids.
Yeah.
That 6 attacks, that's a lot. And that's before you can give him like super special war paint. So even though he has no armor, he can still get a 5-up save pretty easily. 5-up ward, I should say.
Yeah.
And between having 3 wounds, I think he's pretty sick. I'm a big fan. I think Savage Orcs are low key really good. They come across to me as like what I wish Khorne Chaos Warriors were like, because they're cheap. Now, admittedly, Khorne Chaos Warriors have heavy armor and all that stuff, but neither here nor there, and better weapon skill. But they're just full sending. They got a ton of attacks.
Yeah.
And Frenzy is the perfect orc pairing because they're low armor. They're going to take wounds on the way in. They don't have great leadership generally. So it erases large portions of their weakness. Yeah, their downsides, and then just makes all their strengths better.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's a great point. And I would agree. Yeah, if your whole army's that theme, you're just being Savage Orcs across the board, then that becomes less of a problem. I think Frenzy can still you can get baited out with
for sure.
Frenzied, and so having to your Lord would be particularly rough. But you're right, if everybody's just running across the board anyways, it's less likely that that's going to just happen to one unit that's now not supported by the rest of the Frenzied army. So, yeah, I think that could be cool.
For his cost, with just a great axe and you give him some special war paint, this guy's going to have 5 strength 6 attacks by himself at weapon skill 6.
Yeah.
And for the cost that you're going to pay for that is going to be, I don't know, we're like approaching like Cornate Doom Bowl. Not quite that scary because he'll be strength 7 or whatever with a great weapon, but it's like, it's got that vibe to me, but he's on a little tiny base. He's just an orc. I mean, he's a war boss, but he's on a 25 mil. You know, he's not on a giant 40 mil. So I think he's scary. I would be scared of him in a challenge potentially. You might kill him first if your guy's pretty fighty too. But I'm a big fan. Love him.
Yeah.
But again, if I'm just taking an all comers goblin and whatever normal orc list. Yeah, and I just threw a Savage Orc Lord in there. Yeah, that doesn't really make any sense. Because,
which I guess is good because it doesn't make much sense thematically either.
Right.
Yeah, and then I'll just tie this into the narrative stuff from earlier as well. I think the Savage Orcs have their own model lines that look sort of like this tribal vibe, but it's an opportunity. You could do a totally custom converted army of Savage Orcs that look more like Northern barbarians, Germanic tribes or the Britons, things like that. They could be just totally covered in woad sort of a thing. So there's a lot of opportunities there that I think would still fit the rules of war paint and frenzy and things like that. But if you wanted to just do something that looks a little bit different, then that would be an opportunity to do that.
For sure. No, I agree with you. And there's tons of other model lines too that do orcs. I mean, orc as a concept is, pretty generic and universal. So like you could go crazy with these. Definitely. I do love the GW look though, with the huge underbite jaw. I do love that. Yeah. Okay. What about great shamans? We'll start, or do we want to do the goblin war bosses first?
Yeah, let's just throw in the Goblin War Bosses, round out the melee.
We'll do all the War Boss fighty guys. Goblin War Bosses. These are dirt cheap for Lords.
Yeah.
The Goblin War Boss, the common Goblin War Boss, he's like a hero with 4 attacks. He's leadership 8. You could put him on a wolf chariot. I'm not really sure what to think.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I mean, it's an obvious choice for your general if you're doing an all goblin army and you really want to stick to that idea.
Yeah.
Because he's got the higher leadership and that sort of a thing. I think if he ends up against any other lord, he's going to just get minced. But he could go toe-to-toe with an Empire captain and kill him.
Yeah.
And if he's got his extra goblin big boss with him because he came in extra as allowed by just all goblin characters, he's even more likely to be able to do something like that. So, yeah, he would definitely not be my choice in a mixed army, but I could see his value, and it's good that he exists if you're trying to do that all goblin list.
Yeah, and the Night Goblin version is just worse significantly. He is 10 points cheaper, 65 for the normal one, 55 for the Night Goblin. The big reason is his leadership is 7. And that's kind of a theme. Normal goblins have 1 higher leadership, but the Night Goblins lose the leadership, but they'll have higher initiative.
Right.
Is like their weird stat swap.
Yeah, and that's explained as the Night Goblins don't like being outside in the sun and in the fresh air. They would prefer to be in the caves. So I think what that means is if we build a cave battlefield, then I get a leadership
bonus.
+1.
We just have to play against dwarves, though, so...
Yeah, so that's another thing we didn't
fine.
mention in the overall rules, but it's not an army-wide special rule, but it's a Night Goblin-wide special rule, is all Night Goblins hate dwarfs.
Yep. They have a huge lore blurb in the dwarf book about the Goblin Wars and all that, so...
Yeah, and since the Night Goblins are the ones living underground in the mountains, they're the natural enemies of the dwarfs. It's kind of a weird imbalance, though, because dwarfs hate all greenskins, but only Night Goblins hate dwarfs. So again, if you have that matchup, it's in the dwarfs' favor, because Night Goblins really aren't that killy anyways. So even with hating the dwarfs, they're probably still going to just die.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think
I can't see why you'd ever take the Night Goblin War Boss. Can you?
Yeah, again, only if you were trying to be really committed to the idea of a Night Goblin only army, and so you're just going to take it because I don't have common goblins in my Night Goblin army.
Sure.
So I could see it for that reason. I do wish that there was a magic item that these guys could take that would give them +1 leadership, because
it exists for the common goblin, but not for the Night Goblins.
Oh, I must have missed it. What is that one?
Let me look it up. I think it's like, is it the big red raggedy banner?
Oh yeah, the banner. But that's like for like you're gonna do that as your BSB or something.
Oh, that's true.
And it's for the whole unit.
Note it mentions it gets a bonus up to maximum of 9, so I assumed it. Interesting. Maybe if the Lord's in there?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. Yeah, would his general leadership still get that bonus as well?
It says common goblins, including characters in a unit with the raggedy banner, get +1 leadership bonus up to 9. So I think if you put a
common goblin war boss, he would go up to an 8, or he would go up to a 9 then.
Yeah.
And then his leadership is actually 9, so his general's leadership bubble would be at a 9.
Right.
Okay.
That's the one way to do
I didn't read it that way, but that makes sense to me.
Though. It's 75, but
But again, if you're doing the goblin only list, you're gonna put that on the free goblin big boss that you're getting. Well, he's not like a free one, but the extra slot goblin big boss now becomes your BSB, who's going to have the big raggedy banner. So yeah, well, there you go. My wish was granted. I have nothing more to say about goblin war bosses.
Okay. What about the shamans? For me, they're very generic, frankly. The great shamans, you get to pick between Big Wah and Little Wah, and you can do some cool stuff where you're rolling on both charts. I think that's neat. Might be worth investing in some magic or some miscast defense, as we described earlier.
Yeah, there's a couple specific ones I think would be super helpful. There's the Dangly Watsnot and Buzzgob's Knobbly Staff. One of them lets you re-roll your casting dice entirely, which can help avoid a miscast, and the other one I think just lets you add +1, which can make your 1 a 2 and thus not be a miscast. So I think both of those would be a great option if you're going to go with a great shaman.
Yeah, and you've got the points to spend with 100 as your magic allowance, so I would invest in that.
Yeah.
And just hope that keeps you safe. The Savage Orc version costs 10 points more. And he's frenzied, and you can have more paint. I don't know. He's not particularly fighty. He has the exact same stats. I'm a little unsure of the Savage Orc Great Shaman. What do you think?
I don't know why you would want a wizard to have frenzied. That makes no sense.
Yeah.
That's just bad. So I would never take him. But if we're missing something,
unless
people let us know in the comments.
Again, the theme here, but But for me, in my money, I take the Savage Orc War Boss for the theme anyway.
Right. And then I'm not taking the Lord Shaman.
So, but he's fine, I guess. I don't know. Seems a little expensive to me. They are tough 4, though, which is pretty good for wizards.
Absolutely.
Although I think some even do Empire human wizards might be tough 4 at Lord level now that I think about it. But
yeah, I can't remember.
We'd have to double check. Okay, any final thoughts on... Oh, now we got to do the Goblin. There's so many. We're still in Lords. What about Goblin Shamans? What do you think?
I think I wouldn't take them for my Lord level choice. Unless, again, you're doing an all-Goblin thing. I feel like we're going to say the same thing over and over again here. But they're nice because they're a little cheaper, but they're not really that much cheaper. But I guess... The one thing that maybe would make them worth taking is, since I don't typically want to get my wizard in combat anyways, maybe this is just a cheaper way to get the level 4, and then I'm just kind of playing cagey with him, and he's running between units and not getting stuck into combat. So maybe the play would be do a Black Orc War Boss, and then do... a Goblin Great Shaman if you're going to do like the all focus on magic list, and then... ignore the... Maybe that's honestly the best way to do an all-goblin list, is just lean into the magic side of things.
I think, and we'll talk about that later, I think you're absolutely right. I think actually I like them better than the Orc ones for why you were saying that. They're just cheaper, and magic doesn't care what your strength and weapon skill stats are. And there's some pretty cool arcane items that are goblin only. I like the staff of sneaky stealing, which lets you take... dice from the opposing pool and add it to your own, which I think is really cute. It's only once per battle, but I don't know. I like that effect, and it's not random that it happens. You just say this happens. So if you know you have a crucial turn, you can just take a dispel dice and add it to your power pool. So not only have you increased your odds, you've weakened theirs.
Right.
Love it. And then I'm pretty sure, and maybe I'm crazy here, I thought they could take mushrooms, but maybe that's a later edition. Can't the Night Goblins do mushroomy stuff?
Yeah, so if the character is with a unit of Night Goblin... Oh, but that's Fanatic
right.
specific.
And now I'm like...
No, there is... You're right about that. Where was that? Because they can do it to get, I think... Extra
power dice. But maybe I'm mixing that up while you look it up with the... maybe it's in Greenskin Magic. Actually, it is Night Goblin Shamans.
There you go.
Yeah, so they also... Night Goblin Shamans, they get D3 pieces or D3 pieces of mushrooms, and every time they eat one, they add another D6 to the casting roll of a spell, and you'd have to do that. You could do that after you roll your normal dice,
which is super nice.
Which is pretty potent, and then you can continue to eat more pieces until you have none left. So you could be like, oh, I still didn't get it. I'll just eat another piece, etc., etc. And they do not count towards the limit of power dice used per spell.
Yeah, so even a low level 1 could be just eating all the mushrooms.
Yeah, however, if you roll a 1 on any mushroom die, then you miscast. So, and as we've talked about, the miscast table is terrible. But again, these guys are, I don't know, maybe, I mean, the Great Shaman is still pretty expensive for a Night Goblin, and he's actually more expensive than the normal Goblin Great Shaman because they know he's getting these mushroom pieces.
Right.
But I think they're good. I think they're totally legit. They can still take Big Wah in this edition. Mm-hmm. They're not hampered by spell selection. I think it would be totally, and I might even lean, if not for the leadership issues at 2K, I might try doing this. Mm-hmm. I'd be scared about my leadership because now I'm doing either leadership 7 or 6, and that sounds terrible. But
yeah, but you could take that extra big boss, and then you could give him that banner and put both of those characters in the same unit.
That's true.
And then you've still got the at least bumped up to 8.
Right. So there's probably ways to make this like okay for sure. Yeah. Any final thoughts on all the Lord choices? All of them. All like 30,000 of them.
I'll just throw in a couple extra magic items that aren't specific to any particular type of character maybe, but Sizzla's Shiny Baubles I think is helpful. It's a 50-50 chance to reflect an enemy spell, even if it's irresistible force, and even after a failed dispel, and it's only 30 points. And I didn't see it. Doesn't look like it's only one use. Did I miss that somewhere?
What type of item is that?
I believe it is a talisman.
Oh yeah, right there. Doesn't say one use.
So every time your enemy tries to cast a spell, you can just on a 4-up turn it back against them for 30 points.
Yeah. I think it's just because it's half the time, so it's not guaranteed.
Yeah, but that's pretty great for only 30 points.
35%.
That sounds fun.
And a big unit.
Yeah.
That's going to potentially eat a bunch of magic missiles.
Exactly.
I mean, that, if you think about it, just the existence of that.
Maybe makes them direct it elsewhere.
They don't even target it, so it's like a 35 point, you don't shoot at me.
Yeah, so that's nice. And then the glowy green amulet is only 20 points, and it can also be pretty effective at dispelling things. So I think the downside is that if you roll, I can't remember now what exactly.
If you roll a 1, then the spell gets through as it explodes, killing the wearer.
Yes. So I think I would only put that on a level 1 Goblin Shaman, just so I don't feel as bad when he blows up from rolling the 1. But I think those items are really helpful for keeping your units alive as you rush across the field, especially if some of them are suffering from animosity and aren't getting across the field as quickly as you were hoping. Yeah. Those are just ways you can help protect them a little bit.
And they're fun, too. These are almost Skaven-y. Yeah. I love it.
And then I have a couple other ones. I'll just share those at the end of the whole character's situation.
We'll move on along. Now we'll talk about big bosses, and I won't labor the point here as much because I feel, frankly, similar as I did with the Lords.
The war bosses, just a little less.
I am a little puzzled now because I went into this about to be like, hey, the Black Orc guy just seems objectively better. But now that I know he costs 2 hero slots, I'm like, I don't know, man. I do love Quell Animosity, though. 80 points for his stat line, too. He's strength and toughness 5. He's like an ogre character, but he's 80 points.
Yeah.
For a hero. Now, he's taken 2 slots, but man, I don't know. He's pretty crazy to me. All he's missing is 4 attacks. Very potent guy. But honestly, the Orc Big Boss, too. Yeah. Tough 5 hero choice.
Crazy.
I'm going to say that again. Tough 5 hero choice. I think dwarves in the 6.5 book can get that. I'm trying to think of ogres. And that's all that I can think of. So maybe there's another one. Oh, Tomb Kings too, probably. But it's just like, that is so rare. He is going to be impervious to tons of attacks just by because of that. Leadership 8's also just fine. Fairly costed at 65. Could go. You couldn't do anything wrong with him. I have no problems. Be an excellent BSB as well. For the cost.
Yeah, the tough 5 really helps, and we've talked about this before, but BSBs having limited options. If you're going to take the magic banner, they can't take other magic items, so it can be hard to sometimes keep them alive. They end up being pretty squishy, but being able to do that with a toughness 5 character makes them a lot more resilient to be able to keep that banner alive.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, you just think a knight charging, a normal human knight, only hurting him 50% of the time. That's great. So, and then Savage Orc Big Boss, I feel the same way. I think if you're doing the Cornate, I'm just going to run forward with everybody. I think he's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Terrifying even. He's also tough 5. I don't know. I can imagine a game at like 750 points, really small, like entry-level game with this guy as the hero. He's toughness 5. And then
tough for another force at
you
that
just run
level.
him in. Yeah. You give him. He's still got enough points to get the 5-up award for sure. And you just give him a great weapon. Like, I feel like he's just gonna absolutely eviscerate things. You just put him in normal. You don't even have to make him biggins. If you got extra points, you could put him in a unit of biggins, and then they're with extra weapons.
Yeah.
Now you're talking. Now you're talking 3 attacks per guy, strength 4.
Yeah.
You're just. It just seems disgusting. So it quickly gets expensive, I'm sure. But I could see him being a huge issue at small points levels games where you can't get as many characters or whatever.
Right, so you just don't have as much to answer him with.
Right.
Yeah.
So he seems like a problem. And I could see some people being like, wow, I'm frustrated trying to deal with this and I can't make him panic. I can't I just got to beat him in combat or wear him down. So... yeah, I could see that being really potent. Any other thoughts?
I don't have any additional thoughts on that. And I think similarly for the Goblin versions, they're super cheap, just like their Lord versions. And it makes sense to... I don't know that I would fill up my hero slots with them in a mixed list again. I think probably having the shamans would be more useful.
Yes.
But yeah, what do you think? Anything else?
For me, the big bosses, again, I have a hard time ever taking a Night Goblin big boss. A hero with leadership 6 is pretty hard. 30 points though. They're like troop. It's like less than an ogre.
Yeah.
Like it's dirt. The big boss 35. I think back to if you're running an all goblins list and you're getting these extra slots, you could take 4 of these literally at a higher points game and put them all in the front rank, and then you've got this weird, and that might be kind of power gamey, and then they could only attack your heroes.
Right.
And then it's like you just have 2-point guys behind you eating arrows and whatever.
And you give them spears, so they're fighting too.
Yeah, there you go. And you give them spears, and they're just combat res. Who cares? They're just there for wounds and combat res and outnumber. So I could see that being pretty effective, actually, as a breaker. So I think they're kind of cute in that aspect, but in a mixed list, 100% agree.
Yeah, I think it's worth pointing out the Bad Moon banner. If you were going to do like a really themey all Night Goblin list, that makes a unit of Night Goblins stubborn. And so that could be really helpful in an otherwise really low leadership, difficult situation.
Stubborn 6.
Yeah, exactly. So it's still not going to work that much of the time, but getting a chance to reroll is always nice. It is a 60-point banner, so it is really expensive.
Well, 6 is a 6 with 2 tries. That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah, although now that I'm looking at it, the Night Goblin Big Boss can only take a total value of magic stuff at 50
That's
points.
different for the BSB, though, I believe.
Oh, does it call that out
I think it
specifically?
says Battle Standard Bearer.
Oh, any magic banner.
Can take any with no points limit.
Yeah. So anyways, I think I would consider that if I was doing a Night Goblin specific list.
Yeah, just makes sense fluffily. What about the Orc Shamans and Savage Orc Shaman? I feel pretty much the same way. They're limited to Little Wah. They're fine.
Yeah, I would take the Goblins over them for sure, just because they're cheaper, and like we said, you're trying to keep them out of combat anyways, so why bother paying more points if that's not what you're doing with them?
Shout out to the Savage Orc Shaman for costing 67 for the most random point value
I didn't
in
even
the
notice
entire
that.
game.
That's
I don't
hilarious.
think they said, we'll make it cost 2 points more.
Yep.
Because he's got Frenzy. I would argue maybe he should cost less, but what do I know? Sweet, I guess.
I can't remember. If a frenzied character is in a unit without frenzy, do they have to charge out, or are they not even allowed to join a unit that's not frenzied?
I think they can join in, but if somebody's in charge range, they have to charge, whereas the other unit could theoretically not.
Yeah.
So
it seems like they should be cheaper.
For a wizard, anyway. Yeah. What do I know? Yeah, Goblin Shamans seem better. Excellent batteries, very cheap. I mean, most level 2s are clocking in around 100 points typically.
Yeah.
The normal Goblin Shaman is clocking in at 90, and the Night Goblin at 95. So they're just a little cheaper. Yeah. And they're just as potent wizards. So.
Exactly that. Yeah. So yeah, as we wrap up the characters here, I just have a couple more items to toss out there. There's Guzzla's Backbone Brew, which gives the character leadership 10 for 1 test. So that can be, again, helpful for if there's like a critical moment where animosity or some other random effect is going to screw you over, then here's a chance to prevent that. Nibla's Itty Bitty Ring, I think, is an amazing bound spell option. I think that anytime you can get a bound spell that's not one use only, it's usually worth it. And so only 25 points feels like a steal to me. Gork's Wah banner makes the orcs better what they already want to be doing anyways. Just gives them +1 inch to their move stat. Yep. And it's only 30 points. Yeah. So that feels really good. That works on almost any unit, but probably extra good on cavalry or things that are already fast.
8-inch boar boys.
Yeah, but then, I mean, adding that even to just like a unit of regular orcs is pretty great, or your black orc big block of guys, like that could be great. And then the Bash and Flag of Bork means you auto pass your first animosity failure. So that's nice that it's actually when you fail, not just like you auto pass. You don't have to roll the first time or something like that. And it's only 10 points, so that could be an easy, nice thing to just stick on something, especially something like maybe boar boys that might get really screwed up if they're like charging really far to now go attack somebody. Obviously it's at the cost of like now they don't have a war banner or something other like that, but yeah, I think it could be worthwhile.
Some ones that stood out to me are Ditto's double doing doodahs. That lets you cast the same spell twice.
Oh yeah.
That, and you get Edbutt on Little Wah with somebody. You can cast Edbutt twice And then we're starting to talk about, and then you add Nibla Ring, which is an enchanted item, so you could have both on the same character, which also casts Headbutt. And you could have 3 Headbutts a turn.
And you could kill a character.
One character, and you can just start. I mean, you're doing strength 4 hits with no armor saves, so you can just start killing characters from 24 inches out. It doesn't have to be for headbutt spamming, obviously. You could just cast magic missiles twice.
Yeah.
You could cast combat buffs twice. You could. I think the value there's so many times in games where I wish I could cast the same spell twice, and this just lets you do it every turn.
Yeah.
For 25 points. Amazing. The staff of, I keep saying snaff, the staff of sneaky stealing, I already kind of mentioned. Love that. Another little defensive item, because I always probably overly defend my characters. Effigy of Mork. I believe this makes it so that it's, you get -1 to hit against your character. I love that. And it's Savage Orc only.
Nice.
Seems
so
very
that helps with their low armor.
brand, right? So it's just like, you can't hurt me if you can't hit me. And I love that. And it's 40 points. So on a war boss, not terrible, but cheap enough that you could put on a hero version. And then I like some of the banners too. I liked the WA banner. I noted that down, but I had a backup. Nog's Banner of Butchery. That's kind of an obvious one. I think everybody's like, what do you do with that? You put it on the Black Orcs with the great weapons. I think every single battle report I've ever seen has the Black Orcs with Banner of Butchery on it with great weapons. Because it's like,
it's an obvious combo.
They get 2 attacks and they have great perfect, right? It's like, okay, and you know what? It works. I could see it also being good on Boar Boys. Only the riders get the bonus, but still.
Yeah.
Hey, I mean,
and they're +1 strength on the charge with their spears, right?
Yep. So still seems good to me.
Yeah.
And then I really like the Knight Banner, and I just always laugh to myself whenever I read the description of this. I'm not sure why. Oh, is it not that one? What? Am I looking at the wrong one? The Knight Banner. Oh. Huh. I must be looking at the wrong one. But I thought there was a banner, and it's basically just you're -1 to hit if you get shot. But it says the Knight Banner surrounds... Oh, it's not I apologize. I'm all over the place. I thought it was the lore tidbit on the top, but it's actually the rules description. It says, thanks to the darkness and shadowiness of it all, not to mention the dimness, any missiles fired at the unit are -1 to hit. So, apologies, listeners. I thought that was the lore description of it. But no, that's the rules description. And every time I read thanks to the darkness and shadowiness and the dimness. I don't know. It just makes me laugh because it's just, what is this? It's a banner and everything's dark. I don't know. Makes me laugh.
I love it. And that's not the only time that the actual rule is written in a bizarre way like that too. There's
so it
other examples of that.
Mentally. Yeah. But I could see that being good on a lot of different units. Just, hey, having a negative to hit sometimes just deters them from even trying to shoot you. So.
Yeah. So it can help protect a unit.
And then I think we can keep going because we got a lot of ground to cover with this giant book. So, core, Orc Boys, the core, they are 5 points. We'll go down the stats real quick. They're movement 4, weapon skill 3, ballistic skill 3, as you noted, strength 3, toughness 4, wound 1, initiative 2, attack 1, leadership 7, if I didn't already say that. And they have a choppa and light armor. You can pay a point to give them a shield. You can upgrade them to biggins for 2 points a pop. And they have a weird full command where their boss costs 13 points because he gets strength 4. Woohoo. Love that. That'll make list building a joy, I'm sure. All these strange numbers, 67 and 13.
Yeah.
But I think they're amazing for their costs. They're really kept in check because of things like animosity.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing. If you compare this stat line to, say, for example, Free Company from Empire, same points, 5 points per model, but now they come with light armor. They have a better toughness. They do get worse initiative, but that doesn't matter that often. That's just amazing. You get so many of these guys
and the
for so much.
Rule.
Yeah, and the chopper rule. So, that seems like amazing bang for buck. Now, obviously, the animosity throws a huge wrench in the works there, but I think that it is a really great core unit option.
Yeah, I will note, I think people online will discuss this. For my money, I think normal boys, you just give them shields. I don't think you give them 2-hand weapons because you lose the option for strength 4 on the charge. With shields, you're a 5-up armor save all the time, which isn't terrible.
No.
You'll still get a save every so often. However, if you upgrade them to Biggins, which makes them strength 4, whip, and skill 4, now we're talking. Now we got options. Once you do that, I think you can start thinking about going double hand weapon, because then now we're talking about 2 strength 4 attacks each, and now we're starting to talk about we're just killing guys, like lots of guys maybe. So for me, it's like if you want to make this your Biggin unit, I would start thinking about how do you want to build them. I don't love spears on them. Even though you would think spears are better on these because they're not losing parry when they buy the spears because they didn't have it to begin with. But
and the spears cost 2 points.
That too. It's expensive.
Seems like totally not worth it. Yeah.
So not a big spear
which is
fan.
a bummer because the models do look really cool. The orcs with spears from this edition.
I think they got cheaper later on, but they just don't.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, I totally agree with the big one upgrade, making the 2x choppas way more worth it. Would definitely do that. But I think I would err on the side of just running orc boys with 2 choppas anyways.
Really?
I think since I don't know that I'm always going to get the charge anyways,
Indeed.
I would just rather guarantee that for the entire combat, I just always have 2x attacks. That just seems better to me.
And I love that that's not set in stone. See, to my mind, I'm like, I would rather have the 5-up. But I'm like, I think I'm too defensive, and I would be like, I just don't want my guys to die. But you're probably right.
Just take a big unit. They're cheap.
You're right. I don't know. Hard to say.
But that's great.
How
That's
do
what
you
we
guys
like.
take your orcs?
Yeah.
Do you take them with shields? Do you go 2-hand weapon? Do you take them with spears? Tell me why you take them with spears.
Convince us.
Yes.
But orc error boys, on the other hand, seem totally pointless.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay.
Why would you? I just don't why?
I
Convince
like them. Okay. They can move and they can shoot. They screen. They're not in skirmish formation, which is unfortunate for sure, but they can still move and shoot.
Why not just take goblins instead with bows for way cheaper that have the exact same chance of hitting?
The range would be the only reason I could think of, because I think they get short bows.
Yes.
Not that our boys, let's not kid ourselves, are going to kill a lot with their shots that they do make at that long range. But I don't know. I don't hate them, I guess.
Yeah,
I think they're fine.
they lose a point. They lose light armor, and then they cost 2 more points. So they're essentially 3 points more expensive than orc boys.
For the bow. But they keep the choppa. I don't know. Maybe you're right. I guess I don't think they're absolutely untakeable. I could see running them in front of a bigger unit.
That's fair.
If I want.
And I mean, they will still stand up in a fight with toughness 4. So
right, yeah. And if they're in an archer fight, woohoo.
I guess they feel to me a little bit like dwarf ranged units, because they're the high toughness and like they're still going to be able to hold their own in combat if they get into it. But they just have way worse shooting.
They have no armor and way worse shooting.
Yeah, so I don't know that I would spend the points on it when I could just get more melee guys and rush across the table.
You very well could be right, and there's probably something to be said for that. For me, it's almost like they could act as chaff, but this army is not. It has pleny of options for chaff that are faster and
way
probably
cheaper.
better and cheaper. But I don't think they're untakeable.
Yeah.
And if you were going for maybe I'm clout deluded, guys. I do wish you didn't have to take 10 as the minimum. I wish you could get away with 5
that's
somehow.
every single ranged unit, though.
Yeah, that's
and the
true.
goblins, it's 20 as a minimum.
Yeah, you're right.
Which is the one reason maybe I wouldn't want to take the goblin
That's
archers
true,
instead.
because once you take short bows, they're 3 each, so that's still 3 goblins with 20 goblins with short bows, still cheaper than 10 our boys, though. Ugh.
Yeah, so there is that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is always annoying that most ranged units are minimum size 10, because 10 is such a stupid amount of guys when you really just want them 5 wide and then not taking up your whole battle line, but not wasting shots.
For 6th, I wish it was like 8, because then it would be like 4 wide twice or whatever, and then it's not quite as wide.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I don't know. I think they're fine. To me, you're probably right. They're not good enough. I see them in battle reports every so often, but obviously
I feel like it's because people have the models because they came in the starter set.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah.
You're probably right. Okay, what about the Savage Orc boys? I've talked about these all
They seem
night.
great for 6 points. I mean, you lose the light armor, but then you get Frenzy, and you have to pay for War Paint, but that's 1 point per guy. That's pretty great for a ward save that you're never going to get punched through with strength, etc. So yeah, I think they're a great option. I think that even if you're not doing the full army of Savage Orcs, including just a unit of them, could be worthwhile.
I agree. I think this could be your big gun unit if you're not sure. I think a big unit of these, a big unit of big guns. Once you give them war paint, and big guns and an additional hand weapon, they end up costing 11, which is a lot. But for me, that's 3 attacks each.
At strength
Add
4.
strength 4, weapon skill 4, and if you go wide, you're gonna get a lot of attacks, and they don't care about deaths on the way in. So to me, they're a problem. They present a problem, and yeah, they don't need to have a Savage Orc character in there. They're gonna do just fine. So I think they're good. I like them.
Totally agree.
What about talking about goblins? And we're just gonna lump goblins and night goblins kind of together. What do you think?
It's one of the cheapest core choices in the game at 2 points per model, and that comes with a shield when you do that. So I think they're great. I think that makes a lot of sense and makes them worthwhile taking, even though they're so bad. They're only weapon skill 2. They're only leadership 6. So they're going to die in droves. They're going to panic. They're going to flee. It's going to be a bad time. But one of the nice things about the low leadership is since you can take such giant units of them, in fact, they're, like we said, their minimum unit size is 20. So you're going to start with more than some units have at their, biggest that people are usually taking them. That makes it harder to do the 25% losses to cause panic because you just have such a big unit. So that can be helpful. I think this is one of the units where spears might be a good option since they're only 1 point for the spear.
Yep.
And
they're so cheap to begin with.
Yeah. And so I think maybe I would consider spears on these guys. I don't know if the bows are worth it. I think that, like you said, the shorter range, the fact that it's a minimum unit size of 20, most of them aren't going to be able to shoot. But if their main purpose is just to run forward with everybody else and shoot while they're running, then sure, maybe they're a flanking unit that are just going to cause some trouble for some people. I will be running them because I have 20 Goblin Archers from the 7th edition starter set, so they're coming. But yeah, what do you think?
I wrote down a bunch of stuff for them. They're kind of my pet unit. I like common goblins. I think a lot of people really like night goblins better because they are kind of more interesting visually. I just like common goblins for no reason. I just do.
For no reason. Excellent.
I just like the traditional look. I like some of the artwork. I think is what really gets me.
So there is a reason.
I guess so. I like their look versus the hoods, I guess. Okay. But they're versatile. I agree. I think they're probably maybe one of the few units that could get away with spears. Although I think they're totally excellent with just buying light armor and keeping them hand weapon shield. That means they're going to have a 4-up armor save in combat, which for a 3-point model, there are models that cost 5 times as much that don't have 4-up armor saves. So
and still our toughness 3.
Looking
at you, elves.
Right. Sorry, elves. But like defensively, for combat res, you don't get much better than that. Their full command's cheap too.
Yeah.
I think bows are, because they're so cheap, you don't care. I could see taking multiple units of bows. I mean, the problem becomes it's a hobby issue at a certain point because they're so cheap. You could, for less than 200 points, you could have 60 guys with bows. Who cares if none of them ever shoot anything? Like, it's just, they're just so many
they're
bodies.
never going to cause panic in the rest of your army.
Exactly. So it's for me, I wrote 2 points, underlined it, and then I wrote nothing else matters because that's their best part.
The only thing that matters is how many goblins you're able to paint before you go insane.
Indeed. So they seem amazing to me. Night goblins, though, transitioning, have a lot going on. They're definitely the more popular one from my perspective.
If they didn't have these extra options, they would just be worse because they're the same points per model, but they have worse leadership, down to leadership 5, which is really bad. And that's only boosted with their initiative increasing to 3. So that doesn't feel like it's worth it. But what you get is it just unlocks the option to then include fanatics and netters in the unit. And those both are quite good. So I definitely makes the unit worth taking. But with that low leadership, I mean, will the unit even survive long enough to release the fanatics? Who knows? You want to talk us through fanatics and netters?
Okay. I'll start with fanatics because I think they're the one you see more often, or pretty much every single time, it seems like.
It's a very iconic unit.
Yes. So basically, they have a huge spread, which I'm going to open up here to make sure I can reference just in case. But essentially, as soon as an enemy unit or you get in, I think it's 8 inches, you kind of shoot them out a random amount. You roll some dice.
2d6 inches.
2d6, and then they go straight line towards whatever
Yeah, and that first turn, you pick that direction.
Correct. After that, they and I think
die.
they scatter die in any direction. So the notorious thing is they might go backwards and hit your own units.
You roll low on the first release, and they only go 2 inches in front of your unit.
Yep.
And they spin around the other way next turn, and then you're dead.
And if I remember correctly, if you roll like doubles on that, then they like get tangled and die.
Yep, or just run out of energy or whatever.
Or something like that. So there's a lot of stuff that has to do with that.
Which, again, is just a lot to remember.
They do have a lot going on. What these guys do, though, what they're known for is they just do oodles and oodles and oodles of damage. So if they hit, I believe, and I'm double checking here to make sure I'm right. I thought it was strength 5.
And by hit, we just mean they made contact with the unit. They don't roll to hit or anything like that. It's just the model touched the unit.
Right. And I'm trying to find, I thought it was strength 5. If a fanatic spins into an enemy unit, calculate the number of hits as normal, i.e. it causes D6 hits to each unit. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure it's D6 strength 5 hits, and there's no armor saves.
Yeah, so you can just mulch heavily armored elite infantry.
Hey, Empire Knights.
Yeah.
You're dead. Hey, what are the dwarf unit? The Iron Breakers. Mm-hmm. Bye. Like,
don't care about your 2-up save.
Yeah, just all these things. So it seems so crazy that these little goblins are doing this, but that's part of the fun. And they end up going in all the crazy directions or whatever. But
and you can't move through them. You are allowed to charge through them, and this is for both players.
Yep.
But if you decide to charge through them, then they will still damage you.
Do they splat then at that point? And they
just they just pop out the back of the unit.
Out the back.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. So they're absolutely insane. They provide denial. If you're thinking of it from a strategic perspective, there's all sorts of strategies around how to deal with these things. Like people will take chaff units, like fast cav. They'll run them up ahead to get into 8 inches just to proc.
Yeah, to get them to pop out before they're close to the important units.
And then, so there's all this. So if you don't have options like that, these could be very difficult, I feel, to deal with.
And I think that also creates a psychological effect on the enemy. If you have multiple Night Goblin units, you don't necessarily know if or which of those units have fanatics. And
or if they all have fanatics.
Right. And so then you're, kind of playing cagey and maybe not wanting to commit, which then throws your battle line in disorder, which gives the Orc and Goblin player a chance to take advantage of that and maybe offset some of the negative effects of animosity, ruining their own battle line.
Sure.
So, fanatics are a pretty powerful force, but again, very random. They could just do nothing. They could kill more of your guys than the enemy. And you just never know until you roll those dice.
Right. I think it really rewards a lot of different play styles. You'll often see people anchor their flanks with these because it's like, how do you get around them? Because you get in 8 inches and they just start shooting out. So it's like cavalry. It's hard to get around. And if you're in a shooting kind of more goblin-y list with tons of war machines, which we'll get into because you can really take quite a lot.
Yeah.
Like this kind of almost creates a bulwark that they have to either just run through and accept the deaths, or they'll pause and try shooting these guys down individually, which you can do.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny to visualize like 40 guys like shooting at like one goblin, but
because he's just spinning across the field.
Around. But I don't know, something cute about that to me. And I don't know. I think it creates the opponent having to really make tough decisions, and because it's random, it's impossible to completely plan for what they're going to do, because they could be in a 12-inch radius from where they are,
and they can hit multiple units per turn.
Right.
Yeah.
So like a 24-inch diameter circle, like with them at the middle, and it's just. That's so much of the board. Very good.
And just to round that out with, if you're not familiar, which I can't imagine you're listening to this podcast and aren't, but the Night Goblin fanatics are Night Goblins that have had a lot of these mushrooms found deep in the caves that make them go crazy, and they start spinning around with a giant metal ball at the end of a chain, and that's what they're just flinging around with the centrifugal force, carrying them along as they are released from their unit. So that's what we're talking about here with the Night Goblin Fanatic.
And then we have they're 25 points each, and you can take 3 per unit. And then on top of that, you can take netters. Netters are less seen, but I still think they're kind of neat.
Yeah, they could be super helpful, especially for a unit like Night Goblins that could get chopped to pieces pretty easily otherwise.
Basically, they can, as a once, I think it's the first turn of combat, they can throw nets. Yeah. They're considered to still have the same equipment as everybody else. So if you have bows, they could still shoot bows, even if they're holding nets or whatever.
Mm-hmm. But once you have swords, they can still swing the swords in that round of combat. Yep.
But the first turn, they just throw their net and they roll to hit as normal. And basically, if they hit, they reduce the attack value of somebody by 1 down to potentially 0 or whatever, because they're entangled in a net or whatnot. And for 6th edition, there's not a ton of units that have 2 attacks base, unless you're frenzied or have additional hand weapons. So you're basically just stripping a model's attack. Again,
which could give you the edge in that first round of combat, and then with all of your static combat res, and maybe you kill 1 or 2 guys since you're not getting anyone killed back this time.
Maybe they lost a rank from a fanatic / some bowfire.
Now all of a sudden maybe your Night Goblins are winning that combat.
Terrifying to think about, and then you get run down by Night Goblins. Can you imagine? I can actually, but they are. I think you can take how many netters can you have?
It's like a quarter of the unit. I think
and they're
can have
2
them
each. That's my only thing is you're probably not going to take a ton. You'll probably fill up the
since
front
it's only
rank.
the first round. Yeah, I think the Tactica in the back of the army book recommends having enough for 2 rounds of combat, and after that, you're probably never going to need them again.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good way to look at it. They are, it's 2 points each, but again, they're 2 points base. I feel like if you're going goblin themed and you lean in, actually do it, you're going to have so many points to play with, so you'll be fine anyway, hopefully.
Yeah.
Only good things to say. I think they're I say this sometimes, a star of the list. A lot of people love Night Goblins. They build around them. They'll take multiple units, and you see fanatics strewn across the entire table.
Yeah, but not you. You're taking common goblins.
But not me. I'm doing common goblins with my homies.
Which, speaking of, we can flip back now to Goblin Wolf Riders. What do you think about them?
I love them. I do low-key wish Spider Riders were in this book. They are in the back.
Yeah.
I know. I know that. But
I will be running my Spider Riders as Goblin Wolf Riders. So.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. I just like the spiders better for the theme. But the Wolf Riders are excellent. This is the definition of fast cav. Dirt cheap, 10 points per guy. Movement 9. Some of the fastest units in the game. If you want to kit them out to be more I wouldn't call them heavy cav. I don't even know if I'd call them medium cav, but
with light armor and a shield, they're at a 4-up. So.
Yeah, so they go medium cav. You can they'll lose fast cavalry, but they can just get light armor, shields, and they're mounted, so they'll have a 4-up, and they'll have spears you can buy them. So strength 4 on the charge. They can kill some blokes, and the wolves aren't terrible at fighting. And they're fast, so they're going to get the charge, most likely. So they're versatile. Short bows are possible if you want to do that whole thing.
Yeah, play more like skirmishers in that way, because they're so fast, you're much more likely to be able to get out and around behind the enemy like skirmishers can, and then just be peppering them with short bow arrows.
I could see you running these in a million different ways and them being just fine. I could see you taking them naked, 10 points each, with just hand weapons. Yeah. And they're literally just chaff. I could see you leaning in, doing the whole spear and shield thing and light armor.
Yeah, I like how flexible they are. There's a lot of different builds you could do.
Yeah, I think they're excellent. And I think you see a lot of lists take them. And the fact that they're core means you can take tons of them.
Yeah, that's true. There's that guy on the Facebook group that organizes
Storch,
Resurrection.
Starch?
Yeah,
oh, goodness.
I think it's, Storch. But he has a whole army of goblin wolf riders and chariots.
Yeah, he's got 300.
Yeah, it's quite the sight to behold.
Shout out to him. Then we'll jump into Snotling Swarms, which are the final core unit. We did it. These are 0-1, which I think is random. But I guess they didn't want you spamming Snotlings.
Unless you do the back of the book list. Unless you do the back of the book
list. They are unbreakable, so maybe that's the reason why a lot of swarms actually have this 0-1. It's probably because of the unbreakable.
Yeah, definitely.
However, these only have 3 wounds and 3 attacks, unlike the 5 wounds and 5 attacks that we see on a lot of other swarms.
But are also only 25 points.
Yes, so very cheap.
What are the jungle swarms? They're 60 or 80
They're
or something?
60, 65, I think, yeah. And you can take 10 in a unit, which is a lot.
Yeah. So you can still have your own little mini snotling horde.
Yeah, for sure. And they don't cause panic in anything at all. They got that like nobody cares rule. So even goblins are like, yeah, whatever. Not that they're going to break anyway, but if they get eviscerated somehow, because they have so many wounds, literally the goblins next to them are like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I'm going to eat them later.
Also, shout out. This wasn't. Oh wait, you know what? I'll do it later. Never mind. But I think they're excellent.
Yeah, I think it's also interesting that they don't have the swarm rule, even though they're called a snotling swarm. They have the horde rule, and so like everything about them seems like a swarm, but they don't actually have that rule.
Does that mean they're not skirmishers?
I think so.
Oh, that's weird.
And unless the horde thing says that, but I don't think it does.
You're probably right.
And then it describes them as several snotlings stuck on a 40 by 40 base is like what it should be. So yeah, I think that's just an interesting.
Yeah. They're just a fun unit. They're just even smaller goblins. I don't know. It's just
which again,
silly.
that's one of the things I love about the list is how they have so much of that hierarchy built into it that you can have everything from the tiniest little snotling up to the biggest war boss. Yeah.
Right.
It's cool.
Okay. Special, are you ready?
I'm so ready.
Okay, we'll start with the big boys at the top, the Black Orc Regiment. These are also 0-1, so you can only have one in your army no matter what. They are your elite infantry unit. They're 10 points each. Big difference between normal boys is their strength 4 and weapon skill 4, so it's like they're pre-biggened. They came biggened. They're all biggins. And their big claim to fame, aside from being pre-biggened, is they quell animosity. So you put these guys central. They're probably the unit on either side of them and maybe behind them. They're all going to re-roll animosity checks, which is excellent. And they don't take animosity. So
yeah, they don't have to test for it at all.
So they are your consistent unit.
And then they also ignore greenskin panic.
Yep.
So they are that one level up where any orcs that are panicking or fleeing or anything like that, they're not going to trigger that for the black orcs.
Sure.
I want to also say that these are some of the coolest models.
Yes.
I love how these guys look.
Awesome.
And I especially love the steel armor that they're painted with in this book.
I wish they had full plate.
Yeah, honestly, it looks like they do. Yeah.
Because it's just heavy armor, but it looks like it should be a 4-up armor save.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be real.
They are plated. I guess maybe it's because it's so poorly made.
Sure, we'll go with that. Sure, but
yeah, it's just such an iconic looking model. It was definitely in a lot of the imagery I saw when I was first becoming exposed to Warhammer Fantasy, and so it definitely kind of burned in my brain as that Black Orc with the heavy armor on. Just looks so cool. Absolutely love it.
I like too that their boss follows through and has the +1 strength too. So he's just a champ with strength 5,
which is wild.
Don't see that very often. So
yeah, just like a mini hero.
So if you give him great weapons, which we know you friends do, your champ can be busting chariots. Just saying. And he's got 2 attacks, so it's not that unlikely that he does.
Just gets one through.
So if
especially with weapon skill 5 and strength 7.
Oh yeah, and he's weapon skill 5. Sorry. Yeah, I forgot he gets that too. So it's like he's literally a hero almost without the extra
for only
wound.
15 extra points.
But yeah, no. So if your buddy charges his chariot and your black orc unit doesn't specify that he hits the champ, then you just be like, okay, and then my champ hits back with strength 7 and he hits on 3. Oh, and it's dead. Don't even roll anybody else. I think they're fine. Going back to realism here, I don't think they're super amazing, but they're fine as far as elite infantry goes. They're on the better side.
Yeah, I would think so. In an edition where their most elite infantry isn't very good, I think this one is pretty.
I think they're solid.
Yeah.
I think things like the Banner of Butchery, which can give them +1 attack for 1 round of combat when you need it. If you get the charge and activate that, they can. I mean, now we're talking like these guys are almost like Khorne, Bestigors or something, but with potentially, well, very similar actually. So it's just potentially really powerful. I wish they were slightly better armored, but you could build them with shields too, and you can get a 3-up armor save. So this is one of the few ways to get that on a unit in this book on foot. Actually, pretty much the only way.
Though, because it's Choppa.
Oh, you're right, because Choppa. Sorry. So a 4-up. But I wish they had like full plate or something. I wish that was there. I wouldn't even increase their cost.
But then great swords wouldn't be as special.
That's true. But they got stubborn.
Well, that's true.
But these guys aren't stubborn. Worth noting too, there's a lot of elite infantry that's like the bodyguard unit. which these guys are kind of like, but they don't have stubborn. These guys are
No,
all
they'd
about
be
the
happy
killing.
if the war boss died, and then they can become the
They're
next
all
war
about
boss.
just chopping.
Yeah.
They don't care about standing around. But I think they're very solid, very fluffy. I would be surprised if anybody who plays this book like a lot,
Yeah, it doesn't take the unit.
like well, or own a unit. Like you
yeah.
just want one because you're right. The model's like awesome. It's fluffy. It's cool. It's it's like the cover art of these guys. They have like metal masks with teeth. They're perfect.
Yeah.
Moving right along, Boar Boys. Why don't you go over Boar Boys?
Yeah, they're a nice medium to heavy infantry option.
Cavalry.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Yeah,
No, you're
medium to
fine.
heavy cavalry option. They don't come as heavily armored as something like knights, but the boars have thick-skinned, which gives them an extra +1 armor, which is nice. They've also got their Tusker charge, which makes them stronger on the charge in as well. I think it is dangerous that these guys have animosity, because if you get that really bad result, then they can do their full charge range to any orc unit within range in anywhere around them, 360 degrees. So that could really cause a lot of problems. But I think that's where, like we talked about earlier, deploying them in a way where that's just not going to happen, or they're blocked by another unit, like maybe there's a chariot to the left of them before the rest of your army, sort of a thing, then that's less likely to happen. Keeping them out on the flanks, that sort of a thing. But yeah, I think they're a really solid choice. I think given them they come with hand weapon and spear and light armor and shield, so they're already at a 3-up save on their boars, which is pretty decent. I think we could call them medium cavalry, probably is the right term for that. But that spear means they're strength 4 on the charge, so that's pretty nice.
Would you make them biggins for 4 points a guy?
That's a good question. I feel like other options are maybe better just because bigger unit sizes for those other things. But I think I like that the options there. If you're doing a cavalry heavy list, then yeah, I'm going to take a big unit of boar boys and make them biggins.
Sure. I actually agree with you. I think you get a little bit better value elsewhere, although I will say strength 5 is a lot better on the charge than 4. But
that is true.
But at the same time, I agree. I think I'd like it elsewhere. Similar vibe with that. I do like that you pointed out earlier that there's that one magic banner that's like 10 points that's just, hey, you failed animosity. Actually, no, because maybe that'll be that one turn you really needed it. So I like that exists, and that seems to fit in just fine.
Yeah, and one unit of boar boys can have a magic standard worth up to 50 points, so you don't even need to put one of your heroes in there if you don't want to.
Mm-hmm. Yep, just easy to slot that in, and it's cheap enough. And worth noting, too, they're only 18 points each, which for the amount of damage they could potentially do is actually quite affordable. Again, they're not as armored, but once they get in there, they should mulch, I would think.
Definitely.
What about the Savage Orc Boys? I thought these guys are really interesting because they're cheaper than the normal ones.
Yeah, and I guess is that just because they don't come with the light armor, they don't come with the spears, so you have to buy those back.
It's basically they're even less armored. They have 4-ups.
Yeah.
So,
well, wouldn't they just be 5-ups? Because they have.
Well, they still have the
shield.
thick skin.
Yeah. Sorry. I thought they had lost their shields as well.
Oh, sorry.
So they're fine, and then you give them war paint and get them that. Ward save. I think that's pretty. Although, where's that? 3 points per model.
Yeah, it gets expensive.
Not cheap,
yeah, it gets expensive quick. What I will say though is, I think given that these guys come with frenzy, and now we're starting to talk about the riders have 2 points each, I could see Biggins being better here.
That's true.
Then we're talking about 2 strength 5 attacks per rider.
Yeah.
Instead of 1. Really lean into the value where I agree. I don't know if I see the value with the normal war boys. But with these ones, I could see again this with a Savage Orc War Boss on a boar.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
With that magic banner that means they ignore the first animosity fail or whatever. That sounds pretty scary to me. So I like the thought. Maybe it's super glass cannon-y because you run into the Empire list with a bunch of handguns and then they all die.
Blast you to pieces
I don't know.
Yeah.
Sounds fun. I like the unit.
Cool. Moving on. We've got the Night Goblin Squig Herds.
Yeah, you start with this.
Yeah, I love this unit because the models are so cool, and Squigs are another iconic unit in the Orcs and Goblins Army. I think it's, GW gets a lot of flack for not being very original with a lot of their unit types and the tropes that they draw on and things like that. But as far as I'm aware, Squigs are unique to Warhammer. So if I'm wrong about that, or they pulled that from something else, let us know in the comments.
They're almost like that weird, not the Gremlins. What are they called? The other version of Gremlins, that 1980s puppet monster movie. What are they called? Critters.
Oh, nice.
They look like critters, but not fuzzy.
Yes, they're fungal.
Yeah.
Drawn from the caves where the night goblins come from. And the night goblin squig herds can have 3 different types of model in them. They can have the night goblins themselves that are trying to prod the squigs along, because the squigs are just kind of crazy, chaotic beasties that aren't going to do what you want otherwise. You can take squigs by themselves, and then you can take squig hoppers, which are goblins trying desperately to hang on to a squig and direct it a little bit in the direction that they want it to go. This is a very random unit as well. It's almost like a unit just of fanatics that do a little bit less damage, but you can release them on command rather than having it be triggered by people coming close to you. But you can also keep people in the unit and just attack with everybody in the unit as well. So those are also an option. The squigs have the random 2d6 inch move like a fanatic does. They're strength 5, so they're going to hit hard. They're 2 attacks. And then they're only leadership 3, but again, if you're in the unit with the night goblins, then you get to use their leadership of 5. Still not great, but you're keeping a general nearby, so it's going to be okay.
Yes.
And then you can include 1 squig hopper for every 3 squigs. So at 5 squigs, you could still only have 1 squig hopper. But essentially, after you've released them, the regular squigs then go random. So you're doing the scatter die thing again. And 2d6 inches in some random direction. The squig hoppers get to continue choosing the direction that they go until they get thrown off, which again is that, I think, rolling a double.
And then they it's become replaced a loose with squig. A normal squig. Yeah.
So it's definitely, we were talking about this a little bit before recording, and well, say what you were telling me.
All right. I S tier fluff here, because this is probably what they would be like, right? If these were real things on a battlefield, because they're uncontrollable mouths, basically. They're mouths with 2 legs.
Yeah.
And I love that, and I love the look too. But from like a practicality standpoint for me, and I wonder if that was part of the motive, because there's 0-1 in the army list, can't take multiple units, that they potentially slow the game down so extremely if you took a big unit of these and they flee. All of a sudden, all the squigs are now all loose squigs, and you have to resolve all of these loose squigs like every turn. And I could see that adding like literally like 10 minutes to the beginning of a turn. And I just wonder how could, and then I looked at it before doing this recording, how did they do this later in later editions?
Yeah.
And they definitely took a lot of that super character out. They made them more like the hoppers are its own separate unit, right? Versus the squig herd is just kind of more like, I would say, a typical like berserky unit. They made them immune to psychology all the time, which honestly is a huge buff, and this unit wishes they had it, because right now what I'm worried about is if you're not by your general for 1 second, you get shot by something, or I don't know, you take a panic check for some reason, you're a goblin,
all of a sudden,
and then all of a sudden you got to pass on a 5, and if you don't, all those squigs are loose.
Yeah, for the rest of the game.
Until they die. So, and that could happen on a 6. So not that unlikely to happen. Whereas in the later editions, they made them immune to psychology, just as a unit intrinsically. In this edition, the loose squigs are immune to psychology, but not the formed ones. So you can't like cause fear on like an individual crazy squig, but like combined with the thing, they can totally just freak
them out, and then they're going to run wild, which makes more sense.
Sure. But it's just like from a game perspective, I just wonder. I have no idea how these guys would act on the battlefield. I think they're fascinating, and I kind of want to use them just to see.
Yeah.
But I would have a hard time being like, beyond, okay, I need to stay within leadership range because I'm terrified of leadership checks, but that's going to be all the goblins anyway, right? Especially if you're leaning into that.
Yeah.
So I I'd be curious to see what they do. I have a hard time passing judgment.
Yeah, well, we will be using them because I have some of these models, and I got to get as many points as I can in my meager list. So we'll see how they go. Another fun thing worth mentioning is that the squig hoppers can keep bouncing from unit to unit as they go, and if they keep rolling well enough, they can just keep hitting units. So yeah, it's going to be a wild ride.
Strength 5's a lot.
It really is.
About, I think next week, before we get into all the war machines, let's talk chariots.
Yeah.
Orc boar chariot, goblin wolf chariot. We're going to do these kind of at the same time. They take up the same. They're both special. Difference is the boar chariot is toughness 5, has 4 wounds, and it's a little stronger on the charge because it's got Tusker charge and stuff. They both have scythed wheels, scythed wheels, so they'll be doing D6 plus 1 impact hits, which is excellent. The big claim to fame for the wolf chariot is, despite being toughness 4 and only 3 wounds, is its speed 9, which is just
run
screaming for a chariot. So an 18-inch charge, and you can take 2 for 1 special slot. So you can have, I mean, it doesn't cost half as many points, but you could have 2 times as many goblin chariots if you want. So if you just want tons of chariots, and then in my brain, once you have 2 chariots charging into something, now we're kind of talking like, okay, now we're maybe just going to break even though we have no static res whatsoever.
Right, because with the side wheels and everything, you might be doing enough hits.
And it's still strength 5, so I like both.
Yeah, I think it's kind of just, do you want the heavier option? Does one fit the theme better? Are you as a general more interested in speed or more interested in defense? Yeah.
Yeah, I like both. I don't know. I don't have a bad thing to say about either. I think it probably depends on your build.
Yeah.
And then war machines, I'll kind of do these together, at least the specials. There's the rock lobber and the spear chucka,
which are just bog standard stone thrower and bolt thrower.
And they are, I think, fantastic because they're just cheap. Part of that's probably because their crew is terrible. So this is a crew where their weapon skill 2. So if anything gets into them, they're goblins. They're going to die.
Yeah, your skink skirmishers can sneak around and attack them, and they probably won't even hold 1 turn.
Probably not against any reasonable sized unit that
charges. But they can get an orc bully upgrade, which will help with some staying power.
That's true. So you can pay 5 points to get somebody who knows how to fight in there, if you're concerned. For me, I just keep them cheap. The rock lobber, worth noting, at 70 points is 1 for 1, whereas the spear chuckas at 35 points each. You can get 2 of these for 1 special slot, so you can have lots of bolt throwers.
Yeah.
I have a hard time just looking at this book not wanting to take 2 spear chuckas at every single list.
Yeah, which is the case with most people's bolt throwers, right? In most army books.
Is it? I feel like, maybe you're right. Now that you say that, I think you're right. I don't know. It just feels so especially egregious here because they're so cheap, I guess.
Yeah.
Because like I think of the high elf one, that's like 100 points.
Wow.
Now it's a lot better.
I guess because their ballistic skill's higher, yeah.
Better ballistic skill. It can do the rapid fire thing. It's got a lot more going on.
Mm-hmm.
This is ballistic skill 3, shot by a goblin, but it's so cheap.
Yeah.
So you can there's the whole quantity as a quality all of its own. And
absolutely.
These still
you throw enough of those, you chuck enough of those spears, one of them's going to hit.
And they ignore armor. This is if you're going all goblins, the common goblins, hey, how do you deal with Bretonia?
A battery of spear chuckas.
So I love them. I think they're great.
Next up, we've got trolls in our rare slot. This is a common problem I have with rare slots is there's too many cool things, and you just got to choose because at 2,000 points, you're only getting 1 of them.
Yes.
Or 2,000, you get 2, right? Below 2,000, you're only going to get 1.
You get 1.
Trolls are great. They have some amazing models. I love that they have the subtypes. You can take common trolls or stone trolls or river trolls. And each of them have a slightly different approach to what they do. I think the river trolls are harder to hit.
Yep.
The stone trolls have
armor save and magic resist.
Yes, that's right. And then the common trolls just have the regular regenerate and troll vomit, which the other ones also still have. Worth pointing out. They cause fear. They have 3 attacks. They've got 3 wounds. They're strength 5, toughness 4. So they're pretty solid. But they're stupid. So that's, of course, the downside. Now, if you've got a high leadership general and you can keep him nearby, it's probably not going to be as big of an issue because of that. But there's just nothing worse than failing that stupidity check and having your big, expensive troll unit at 50 points a model just stand there and not really do anything or stumble forward at half move or whatever the case may be. So yeah, I'll take them because I love them. They're great, but I can understand why people would leave them at home to take one of these other options.
Yes, I agree. They're a unit I want to love. They're the unit I want to take out of this list. I think the most for some reason. I just am drawn to them. I like the idea of a bunch of goblins and then some trolls. And it's like, oh yeah, those are the big guys that deal with it. And then maybe a giant in the back somewhere. Who knows? But I have a hard time because if you have a more infantry-based army with your general on foot, they're going to outpace him, so they have to slow themselves down to stay in the leadership bubble. If he's mounted, then they're too slow. They're at this like weird speed where it's just awkward. Is the problem. It's awkward. Now, can you get around that? For sure, and I'm sure some tables will really allow them to benefit. I think especially the river trolls at -1 to hit all the time against weapon skill 3 or less opponents. You getting hit on 5s, those guys are never going to die. Seems amazing. And I love that the vomit auto hits with no armor saves. Yeah. So they have an option against knights or heavy cab. Cool. So a lot of monstrous infantry is what I'm going to call this type of unit. I think is scared of heavy cav. Trolls don't give two craps about heavy cav. They have regen, so they don't care about the high strength that's not negating regen. Right. And they've got vomit, which just ignores weapon skill and the armor, which are like the two big defenses of the knight. So I love that they can kind of present a wrench in the typical rock, paper, scissors, if you will.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, I want to love them. I think they're fine. They'll work.
Absolutely. I don't think
you'll lose
and they're super
the game.
themey, so I think it's nice when a super themey unit is fine to take. You don't feel like you're really hamstringing yourself by taking it.
Yeah, and a unit of 4, 200 points. I mean, that's unit strength 12. Fear might come into play. So
that's true.
Something to keep in mind too. What do you think of the Doom Diver?
I think it's an interesting 10-point upgrade to a normal rock lobber because it works exactly like a rock lobber, but you get to reroll the scatter die. Yeah. And that's the idea of the goblin being launched has some makeshift wings, and he can sort of flap his wings a little bit to try to re-aim himself towards his intended target. Maybe, because you're just re-rolling the scatter die, so it might not help you.
Is it re-rolling the scatter die, or is it you roll D3 and you move that many inches? I might be mixing it myself up here.
That sounds way cooler. I hope I'm wrong.
As we check live.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Oops, sorry, guys.
No, it's fine. I'm probably wrong.
Here we go. Doom Diver. Roll the artillery die and the scatter die. Determine where the goblin lands. As for a rock lobber. Since they're able to direct themselves onto their target to some extent, the player is allowed to reroll the scatter die.
Oh, okay. I must be thinking of 7th edition. Sorry, folks. So re-roll the scatter.
Yeah, that one makes more sense with the flapping wings, though, is to adjust your
7th
trajectory by
is
D3
you
inches.
just roll scatter, you find out where you are, you roll a D3, and then you pick any direction D3 inches from the scattered spot.
I like that.
Yeah, I thought it was cute.
But it also is a little bit different. It just does D6 hits, I believe.
Yes,
it is, rather
5,
than the normal
save.
template. So you don't have to put a template down at all. It's just he hits and does X number of hits.
Because he's got like
you roll.
dynamite on him or whatever, right? He explodes.
I don't even know if it specifically says that.
He doesn't even blow
Maybe
up.
they added that too in the next edition.
Maybe they did. I like to imagine he's got dynamite on him. Or they're just chucking him and he's just got knives and lands on somebody and just starts stabbing them. I don't know. Okay. I think they're fine though. It's not as enticing of a rare choice with everything else being super
especially
cool.
Since you can already get a rock lava anyways. It does have its own misfire chart, but it's pretty similar result wise to other standard misfire charts. It just has funnier descriptions of what happens.
As it should.
Next up, we've got the Snotling Pump Wagon. So I love that there's another way to get more Snotlings in the list. This feels like a tough choice to take. It's cheap, but wasting your rare slot on a 40-point single model unit, like, I don't know.
It's
what do you
weird. I don't know. It's so unlike anything else in the game. It's unbreakable. Cool.
And it does 2d6 impact hits.
Which is nuts. And there's strength 4. So, you could just crump somebody. It's random movement. It's so cheap that it's hard for me to be like, oh, it's terrible. Because for 40 points, I'm looking at it. I'm like, this could do a lot more damage than 40 points of damage. But it could just die.
Yeah.
It's only tough 4 with a 6-up save with 3 wounds. so handgunners could just eviscerate this on
Easily.
a good turn of shooting. Yeah, this is hard for me to evaluate. I'd be really curious, listeners, what you guys think. I agree with you, Cam. For me, it's a opportunity cost problem where
if it wasn't rare, if it was like a special or something, then sure, I'd use one of my slots for that.
Right? Yeah, but I want to use all these other things.
Yeah, and it's a cool modeling opportunity because the idea is just that these snotlings have tacked together all the random scrap bits that they can find into somehow a vehicle that can move lurchingly across the battlefield. I love that the crew is just numerous snotlings, so you can just kind of put guys all over it however you want. So it could be a really cool thing to just build a custom model for, but I just don't know how often I would use it.
Might be fun at slow grow with 500-point games where like most armies aren't even taking a rare choice because we can't afford them. But you just be like, hey, I could see this actually being kind of scary at like that scale. 2d6,
strength 4.
That'd be kind of terrifying. So
all right, let's do it.
We should do that. I don't know. Okay. Finally, the piece de resistance, the giant. What do you think of the giant?
My only experience with giants so far is in an ogre list, but what I experienced in that was that they're hard to keep alive because they're just a bullet magnet and an arrow magnet and a magic magnet, and they don't really have enough staying power to survive sustained fire, and they're a lot of points. They need to work, like with any sort of big unit in this game, they still need support. You can't just run them by themselves into a block of infantry and expect them to do much. So, because they'll just lose to static combat res, if nothing else. So I think they're hard to use well, but I think that they are usable. I think that this is another unit that has like 2 pages of special rules for how they work. They don't attack normally. They have to like roll all these random dice to see what they do. Are they going to stuff a guy in a bag? Are they going to kill a 300-point character immediately by just stuffing him in the bag?
Put him in his pants.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a wild unit. But they're super cool. I love that they're super themey. The fact that you're rolling on these random tables with all these crazy things that the giant might do, like
whenever
jump up
he
and down
gets in
on
combat
people.
And somebody rolls jump up and down, we all in real life start jumping up and down because we're exciting. Yeah, we're excited that he's jumping up and down in the game.
And the fact that he can then fall over, and they have a special template for the giant falling over, and that happens when he dies is a nice consolation prize for when your giant does end up dying. Is like, well, at least you might fall on your guys. It's sort of like in 40k, if your vehicle blows up, you're like, but it might blow your guys up because I'm close by or something. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's so expensive. I don't know if I would choose to take it, but what do you think? I
think we're colored by the slave giant for the ogres, and the big key difference, I think the slave giant is maybe a few points cheaper. The big difference is this one is stubborn. The other one is not. So where the slave giant will struggle just running into a big block of units, and if he doesn't roll well, sure, he's leadership 10.
But that's going to go down.
But it goes down, and then it ends up being 7 or whatever, or 6, because he lost to static res. And then he flees and dies. This guy's going to be a 10 all the time.
That's a good point. I didn't even pick up on that specifically.
That's the biggest boon for this version of the giant. I think the fluff reason is the slave giant's not stubborn anymore because he's been broken. Like the ogres were like he's in chains. Like he's actually, his charts are slightly different. Like this one is like a free giant. Yeah. Right. He's there because he wants to be.
Yeah. And the orcs are all like, wow, that guy's huge.
Right.
He's great.
Whereas the slave giant is like, they pulled him here. He doesn't want to be here. So he's going to leave if he gets the option, you know? If he's getting owies.
Well, then maybe we should try it.
I want to give it a shot.
Yeah.
I think he could hold up. I think this is probably one of the better versions of the giant. This one and the chaos one.
Okay.
I think both still have stubborn.
Nice. So that does make a big difference. Yeah, for their staying power in that sense. They are a large target. That makes them a little easier to hit. They're ignoring all the green skin panic, so that's nice. But they cause terror, so that can also be helpful.
Terror just randomly can destroy a game. So that's fun.
If I do run a giant, I don't own a giant model, but I do have a extra big troll from Age of Sigmar, so I'll probably run that as a giant if I decide to do that. But he's a 3D printed model that I customized and stuck a bunch of mushrooms on and stuff, so he's pretty cool looking.
That sounds good to me. I'm not gonna be picky about the giant model. I will say though, I do love the 6th Ed giant.
Oh, yeah, same.
And I like the 7th Ed Giant too. I like them both for different reasons.
Yeah, and they've got a great picture of the 6th Ed one here in the book. He's got the big axe with like
He's
a
just
giant
like a fat
stone
guy.
door or something. Yeah.
I love him. He's great. He's just some guy with like a big bunch of heads on his necklace. I don't know. It's great.
He's got a sheep just hanging from his belt.
Yeah. He's going to eat that later.
Nice.
Okay.
We are going to skip the special characters.
Yeah.
We don't typically talk about those. That's not something we, as a gaming group, typically play with.
Grimgore costs 600 points.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
That's
there
nuts.
You go. Yeah.
So yeah, we'll skip that. We've talked about, our reasons for not loving special characters before, but just want to say that love that there is in most of these 6th Ed Army books, this whole section about how to play the army, how to approach the pros and cons, strengths and weaknesses of it. And I think this army in particular benefits from that. Getting a little bit of a primer on how you can run the army effectively is super helpful. So definitely check that out. But what do we want to... Oh, and then, there's this list of the back of the book lists that are often in these 6th edition army books as well. There's a whole bunch of different ways you can run your horde of orcs to rearrange where the units are and the different selection options. And this is where we mentioned briefly earlier, but you can get the spider riders in the Savage Orc Horde. So they introduced 2 new unit types there, both spider swarms and goblin spider riders, which are pretty similar to the wolf riders, but have poisoned attacks. Do they have poisoned attacks?
Yes, the spider mounts are poisoned, right. Where the goblins on top.
Yeah, but then they lose fast cavalry, but they are able to
go
cross obstacles
in difficult terrain.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. So I don't know, maybe I will run my spiders as that. We'll see.
They're slower though. Their movement's 7 instead of 9.
Okay, scuttling instead of galloping.
Yeah, I actually really like the spiders. I don't know. I just like the idea of goblins on spiders.
Yeah, they look super cool.
Yeah.
But anyways, these, as in most of them say, these are not balanced, so get your opponent's permission before using them. But as we've said before, this is just great opportunity for themed lists, maybe some more modeling opportunities, things like that.
For sure. A lot of these are pretty fun.
Yeah. So I think next we're going to pivot into some of our favorite art from the book.
Sure.
So you want to start?
I'll start with one that I almost shouted out too early, so sorry. Page 44, the Snotling Swarm kind of corner art.
Yes.
I just love that because I think I was trying to describe why I like common goblins, and I know these are Snotlings, but that's like the look that I like. It's all these, they've got the big pointy nose. There's just tons of them. They're crawling all over each other. Almost uncivilized looking, kind of. I don't know. They're just... I love the look. They got really sharp teeth. Just what I imagine when I hear like goblin horde like that, and despite them being diminutive, like they look small, but I would be terrified.
Look so vicious.
I would be like, I wouldn't
fight one of those.
That.
Yeah,
right. That thing's gonna like pull my hair out or something. Just they look like they fight dirty.
Yeah,
and there's no rules, and I love that. So that art just always stands out to me whenever I flip by it.
Yeah, I want to point out on page 13 as well. There's some common goblins that I think have that similar vibe, but have that little bit bigger stature. But I absolutely love the guy kind of in the center top that he's like doing a 2-handed sword swing.
Yeah.
He just looks so intense. He's like, I'm going to kill this guy. It's great.
I do. You're right. That is actually, man, I missed that one. That's so good too. Yeah. I just love that look. I love the huge giant schnoz.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to pick just one. I have several, but I will pare it down to just one, which I think is a cool piece of art, but also very thematic, which I think is helpful, and that is on page 79.
Ooh, way in the back.
Way in the back, almost at the end. The page doesn't even have a page number because it's a giant story. But this is goblins and, well, mostly just goblins fighting each other. There's a couple of orcs mixed in there, but I think that it's cool that the art represents this animosity thing happening. It is part and parcel of life as an orc and goblin, a greenskin. I love that there's the orc in the back trying to hold the two goblins apart as they're like, let me at him. Yeah. And the guy in the front foreground, he's just biting the other goblin's arm. So this just, such a great piece of art. And this style that's sort of like the ink watercolor kind of thing is just one of the things I love about Warhammer Fantasy. And this just nails it so perfectly. Great amount of detail in certain areas, but kind of fades into a little less detail in the background. It's just a great piece.
I agree 100%. And it, kind of sums up the feeling of the army there. It's at its own throat.
Yep.
So fantastic.
Yeah, we're going to fight somebody, even if it's ourselves.
Even if it's us.
Yeah.
We're going to fight someone.
So what closing thoughts do you have kind of overall for this army?
So I kind of wrote down a few things. I love the feel. I think anybody who gets into this game like we do, and maybe I'm wrong here, Cam, to shoot me down, but I feel like everybody low-key wants to have an Orcs and Goblin army because it's really cool.
Yeah.
And it's the OG Horde.
Mm-hmm.
It's the original greenskin. No, but it's just, there's something to it. It's kind of not taking yourself seriously.
Yeah.
That whole thing
it
is
forces
really
you to do what we kind of aspire to do.
right.
Yeah.
It's really appealing, I think, for that reason. Also, as should be obvious probably by the runtime, don't tell me how long we've been recording, but there's so many options. There are so many options.
It's a very diverse list with so many. Yeah.
I feel like this is 2 army books in one. Sure, it's really random, but if you want, I bet you there were people in 6th edition who were doing well with orcs too. Like, this has some very efficient core troops, and as we've kind of talked about, there's ways to get around some of the random bits. So you can minimize that if you want to within reason. And I think you could do well with this army book. But at the same time, I think you could do absolutely crazy zany stuff that other books couldn't even dream of.
Yeah, that'll only work 20% of the time, but when it does, it really works.
Right. So I think this would be a great, if somebody really likes that description and they're thinking about getting into the game, I think this would be a great, like, this is my army, I don't want any other ones. Like, I'm just an orc player.
Yeah.
Because this is, again,
it'll keep you busy for a while.
You could just play orcs one time. You could do all goblins. You could do all night goblins. Then you could mix and match. It's just a lot of variety. You could go shooting. You can go magic heavy. You can go all combat.
I think the only army book with more variety is probably Hordes of Chaos, since you can add beastmen to it.
That's
so it's
true.
like a double book. But otherwise, I think this is one of the books with the most variety and opportunities for totally different builds that can do totally different things in interesting ways. I agree with and echo everything you said. I do think it's not necessarily a good starter army, though, if you're not familiar with wargaming, and even if you are maybe not familiar with Warhammer, because it breaks so many of the standard rules and it has so many special rules.
Yeah.
It's already hard enough to remember all the rules of Warhammer Fantasy 6th edition. And so then if you add in all of these like multi-page spreads of additional special rules, that's just a major mental burden on a new player. I think
new players and giant charges into combat.
Yeah, and
that
like,
just
what do we do?
Screeches to a halt.
And that's happening at the end of a turn where they just had to roll for 12 squigs hopping in different directions.
Yeah.
I think it's ironic because we said a similar thing about Empire, and it's Orcs and Empire that were in the starter set. So it's like 2 of the more difficult armies to wrap your mind around and use effectively were in the starter set, which they're visually and aesthetically and lore-wise very iconic armies, but they're definitely not particularly beginner friendly.
Right. They're kind of, it's so interesting. It's right. They must have made the inclusions based completely off of the lore and the look versus
any thought about how easy it would be to actually start playing.
Is this actually a good for like new players? Like, probably should have been like high elves.
Yeah.
In the, or whatever, something like that, which they did later, I guess.
In 8th. Yeah. I think another thing that sometimes gets missed when we're coming back to it, because we are familiar with wargaming and things like that, but the core rules even specifically recommend playing with only the basic rules, not introducing any advanced rules, which even includes a bunch of the psychology stuff that we consider pretty basic to the rule system, but it's saying don't use that.
Right.
And so if you were taking that approach, maybe that helps kind of any army become a beginner army, because if you're like, well, we'll just ignore all of the special rules and I'm just going to use the stats that are listed here and we'll just do basic stuff, then maybe you could gain your feet that way and then start adding in all the other things. But I don't know how many people are actually doing that, so I'm not sure how useful that is. So I guess I would say I would not recommend this as a starter army. And
I think you could do worse, though.
I'm not disagreeing. I just want to hear what's worse.
I think the hardest armies to play I think Empire again goes up there. For me, the more I think about it, I think that might be one of the hardest ones, just because your stats are so average. There's no like obvious strengths. This, I feel like you could just do well on.
That's true. You could just
efficiency.
not take all the random stuff. You could just do a Savage Orc list with a bunch of frenzied Savage Orcs.
You could do that, or honestly, just Orc Boys. I think they're just so efficiently costed.
Yeah, don't bother with all the squigs and all the fanatics and giants.
And you could just do just fine off of the back of really solid bodies.
That's a good point. So there's a way to build this list that would be beginner friendly. And then it gives you the options without changing armies to complicate things as you go. So yeah, all right, I'm convinced of that. But yeah, overall, just I want to echo what you said. There's just so many fluffy options. The rules really feel like it reflects the narrative and lore of this army. So I think if you're really into that and you don't mind the randomness and you just want your army to feel like it's described in the lore and act like it looks on the table, this is a great army for that.
Yeah. No. I won't delay it any further. I agree 10,000%. But listeners, tell us what you think of the Orcs and Goblins in 6th edition.
Yeah, share your favorite stories about when things went horribly wrong or horribly right.
Yeah, and tell us what we got wrong about what units and why we were right. Tell me why we were right. That would be awesome. Or not, whatever. But any final thoughts?
That's all I have to say about Orcs and Goblins. So stay tuned. Next week, we'll be talking about dwarfs. And like we said, we'll do that. Then we'll put together some army lists, play a battle, and then share a postmortem with you.
For sure. Okay, this has been Refused Flank, and I'm Grant.
And I'm Cam.
Have a good one.
Bye.